Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Melby Styles, Troy Shuka, Bose Nail, Joseph Pizarro, Samson, Maris, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, NA Literalist, Maria Lenans, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Liam Nedrick, Abraham Mohammed, Nybri, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Also, below this video there is a link to get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. With that, I'm going to raise the mic on whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
Sailboat on the water. You know, if I look, it looks like it's curving slightly.
Yeah. Lens from the camera, probably.
Absolutely. So, what are we going to fry today? Nobody was in yesterday.
If they can't get something in the frying pan, you can't fry it.
Call him out. Law rumpus out. Let's blow that geometry guy out. Nathan. Get him out and fry him up. I'm going to move for a fight today.
You there, Nathan?
I'm just doing stuff.
Yeah, that's all right. I may have to say, I can't get these slides to go in order for some reason on my phone. It kicks me off and I have to come in for something. I don't know why.
Sounds like he's putting you to work again. I'm on mute. Miracle by me. No snow today.
Okay. No snow today.
Nope. Snowing all day yesterday. Not today. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
You working or what?
No, I was just in my car for a second. Now I'm out. Make sure I'm still coming in.
Technical stuff.
Good. Come back to total silence. Excellent.
Well, Neil was walking in the snow, and I'm trying to figure out why these slides aren't working properly on my phone. Other than that, we're good.
14 people in Discord, one more than there should be, and yet total silence. Wonderful.
Yeah, how come Discord doesn't pop up when we're quiet?
I don't know.
So, you want to give it a try and see how far we get?
What a try. I wasn't listening to you. I was busy. So I don't know what you're asking me.
Go to Master B. I got a bunch of slides. Start off with a red circle. I'll try. I don't know why it's not coming in order for me, but I may have a hiccup here.
Red circle.
It's the first one that I set up. It won't let me load more than 10 at a time. It's right after the meme of the lambs to the left of me.
Tangent.
Muttons.
Tangents.
Well, do you see the picture of the dog stuck with the sheep? It's the one below that.
No, I don't.
Well, just scroll up.
I'm looking.
Well, okay, then scroll down. At 6:47 p.m. It's the one below that. So 5:29 a.m. is the first one.
Okay, a circle is around. Is that the one?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Shall we give it a
Give me a second. Okie dokie. Got your red circle on screen. You're going to have to be very clear about what you want next, though.
Yeah, I'll just give you cues. So a circle is round and has no corners, vertices, or sides. Next, please. Parts of a circle. As you can see here, it's described every single part of a circle. We're going to dive into this. Next slide. So you got a radius, a diameter, a circumference, a chord, an arc, a tangent, a segment, and a sector. Next slide. As we break it down again, you see the radius can come from the middle. The diameter is all the way through, touching each end. And then you have your tangent point and your tangent line. Next one, classifications of angles with circles. Vertex is on the circle. So you can see the vertex on the circle. Case 2, vertex is inside the circle, as shown there by the two secants. Case 3, vertex is outside the circle, as shown in those three figures. What is obvious of these three cases? Anyone see it? I'll tell you, straight lines. Can't have an angle to form a vertex without straight lines. Just remember that. Next slide. When angles and circles are combined, there are only three places the vertex can be. As you can see in figure 1, inside the circle, in figure 2, on the circle, and figure 3, outside the circle. Now, again, what does it take to make an angle? Not a circle, but two straight lines. Just remember that. Next slide. Secants and tangents. When a line is just touching a circle, it is a tangent. Next, the radius drawn to the one intersection point is perpendicular. And there's how they beg the question, we live on a sphere. So they're begging the question, we live on a sphere, and they're begging the question that there's a center of the sphere and a perpendicular that comes up to the Earth's surface. So all begging the question. Next one. A line with two intersections with a circle. Again, those lines keep showing up to get angles. Next one. Angles formed by two secants. One outside, one inside. Next one. When angle is on inside, as you can see there. Next slide. When angle is on the outside. Remember, a circle doesn't have it unless you do straight lines. Tangents. Next slide, that came up. Tangent, a line in the same plane as a circle that intersects the circle in exactly one point called the point of tangency. Next slide should be a picture of a brass sextant. Do you see it?
Yeah, it's up.
Okay, so here's the instrument used to figure out angles. Not from the center of the Earth, that doesn't exist, but from the surface of the Earth, which is flat, because that's the only way you're going to get angles, as shown with the previous illustrations, that you need straight lines to get angles. Next slide. So the circle of equal altitude, sailors anywhere on that circle shooting the GP of the sun in this case, and it's 50 degrees no matter where you are from that circle because of the straight lines and the only way you can form an angle. Now this can be thousands of miles. Next slide. In order to get your fix in the middle of the ocean, you can take up to 3 readings and know exactly where you are, where they all cross. Each one of those circles to the center of the GP of those 3 different luminaries has to be flat and straight in order to get the angle. So we're looking at thousands and thousands of flat because of the straight line. Next slide. They tell us the sun is coming in parallel rays. And they need this to happen in order to do that line inside the circle to get a vertex. But guess what? It doesn't work that way. Next slide. As you can see, the trick is the sun's rays on this old image of an airplane, a person on top of the surface of a sphere, and someone in the center, which nobody is, by the way. And the sun's rays will be hitting it. And then guess what? You need a straight line to get your angles. This is their little trick. So the next slide, we saw this last week. They can't figure out which way the sun's coming in, converging, parallel, or diverging. As you can tell here in the third figure, the way their theory is wrong is they're saying sun rays are coming parallel, but we know otherwise. Look at the next picture. Does light come in at funny angles or parallel lines? I mean, it's over right here. I mean, your eyes tell you they're lying with these cartoon images and begging the question with a sphere. The next slide. Another beautiful picture of divergent rays and how the sun actually hits the surface of the Earth. Now, this is where I've got to find where I'm at. Okay. Next slide. Is it the hot spot, Neil? Nathan?
Yes.
Okay, so how do you get a hot spot at 93 million miles away? If sun rays were coming in parallel, that hot spot you see there would cover the whole Earth. So because the sun is not 93 million miles away, we get divergent rays and a hot spot. It's just that simple. Next slide. This picture says it all. This is what we see. This is what we observe. It's not parallel. So forget the circle with parallel rays to the center. That doesn't work. Next slide. This is an illustration they use to fool us with Muppet vision. They're saying, here's a ship on the surface of the Earth, and the visible horizon is at the bottom, and then the horizontal reference plane is where the ship's captain is, or navigator is, using the sextant, and then the light from the luminary from above. Notice how they show dip here. Let's see what dip is. Next slide. Next, we must account for the difference between the celestial horizon and the visible horizon due to our height of eye. If you go back that one slide to that one I showed before this one, just go back. Now, the height of eye is what is the dip correction, not the curve of the Earth is not the dip, as this image is trying to fool us. Go back to the blue slide, dip correction. Next, we must account for the difference between the celestial horizon and the visible horizon, that's your flat plane, due to our height of eye. This is known as dip correction. Now, I've got an illustration from the Navy. Next slide. How to achieve an angle. This is an illustration from the Navy, and they've got a battleship of some kind, and it says dip. And where does that dip go? Does that go over a curve? No. It says dip correction accounts for the height above sea level. Sea level is sea level, not sea curve. And so you must take down that sextant and place it on the water surface, and that is the dip correction, not around the curve. Next slide. So you can see here in this figure that I found, they're trying to make it work on a curve. Next slide. I took the opportunity to draw the GP of the sun straight down where it would be, and with that green line, that would be my horizon. You see, that's the way a sextant works. Two straight lines, and you get an angle. Next. Another picture of the way they're trying to fool you with dip correction. See how they do dip? Instead of bringing that guy down to the surface of the water and making it level with true horizon, they're trying to say dip is around the curve. Next slide. So I took the liberty to scratch out their dip with the red and show you in the yellow a perpendicular, the zenith and the true horizon, allowing for an angle to be achieved. Next slide is an illustration of an actual sextant, sun and horizon, not a curved surface. You can't, it doesn't work. So what do we see? What we see out there, and if you've been in the ocean like I have, this is what you see. Flat, apparent horizon, level, straight. Next slide. This is what you would see from an ocean. Flat, level. And this beautiful one with the blue sky and the old ship with the divergent rays. If you took a sextant reading from this ship, you'd have to minus maybe 15 feet and get to water level to get to your precise angle. Wrapping it up, here's how they do it. Look at how they have to cheat. They have to show the angles on the flat plane, carving the Earth in half in order to get the angles to that sun. And yet they say this can be done on the surface of a curved item like a ball, and it can't because you need two straight lines.
Sorry,
Wrapping it up.
sorry. Which one am I supposed to be on? Is it the picture of what looks like the celestial dome with a circle in the middle of it?
Yes.
Okay.
So as you can see here, they show angles of the observer, but it's two straight lines. And the plane he's on is the Earth cut in half. He's not doing this off a curved surface. You can't get these angles off a curved surface. So it's like a weird picture to prove a ball, but it doesn't prove a ball. And then the last slide. The real world, the sun comes in at funny angles because it's moving away from you once it passes your zenith. And that's the angle, how you find where its GP is and where you are with a sextant. And Eratosthenes, light coming in parallel, is false because we don't live on the globe and no one's in the middle taking a reading. Bye-bye, globe. You're the sextant.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video there is a link to get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now, we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, the Adam Meakin, Paul, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Greetings,
Lovely
everyone.
day, lovely day.
Good morning. We're also joined.
Afternoon, Nate. I just want to confirm one
Good
thing.
morning.
That's red lorry, yellow lorry, red lorry, yellow lorry.
That's beautiful. Sober as they come today.
Hello.
I couldn't do it last night. I generally couldn't get it out.
My wife was in hysterics as soon as she joined. She was listening in the background over Discord, and she's just what's all that background noise? Is that Arwen? Yeah, she's just laughing her head off because the second you joined, she could just hear exactly what was going on. She's like, he's sozzled, isn't he? And I'm like, yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
I was on mute.
Well spotted, Nate.
Science is our friend. It's our buddy. We're cuddling. Tell it how much we love it.
Yeah. Well, I was being sarcastic there, but I mean, but yes, probably a little overly emotional about how much I loved science.
I love science. It's so great. I don't know what I'd do without it. I'd be so devastated if I lost it. You didn't get to the melancholy stage on the show, unfortunately. It would have been funny, but you didn't. Maybe afterwards. Right, can I get a hello from someone in Discord?
Hey. Hello.
Very good, very good. Good to have you. Thank you for saying hello. Let's do a bit of housekeeping. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature?
Just
Never.
an apparent horizon, that's all.
Not a physical geometric sphere edge, though, is it? It's apparent, i.e. appearing, but not actually.
Exactly. Yeah.
How about the horizon footage on the Mars landing? I didn't see any.
I haven't seen the horizon footage in the Mars landing, but what I can say before I...
It's a top-down shot, and at some point you think it's rotating off to the horizon, but then it doesn't really do that. So it's just a straight-down shot. You don't get to see the horizon.
What movie are you talking about?
I was about to say that.
Where's Mars?
In a sky vacuum, the light we identify here on the ground as Mars is claimed to be a rock in a sky vacuum at an astronomical distance away, based on an R value that's been debunked and an assumption made by Christian Huygens that Venus is the same size as Earth, so it could get scaling values to give them the distances in this sky vacuum they claim to have travelled to the rock they claim is there in the sky vacuum, which is in complete violation of the second law of thermodynamics. If they travelled through a sky vacuum to reach this claim to be rock in the sky called Mars, then we'd all be dead, because the gas we're breathing would fill that space. Space! How ironic they call the availability of volume that gas would fill, if it were real, space! A space for gas to fill. How ironic.
Right, so where is it? I've heard it's somewhere in Canada.
Who cares? Just a made-for-TV movie, and is definitely not taking place in a sky vacuum. There is a light called Mars. There's also lights called the ISS, Jupiter, various other little lights in the sky that we see doing little movements. However, they claim their lights, which they show on TV, are from a sky vacuum. And they claim their horizons, as you're asking about Mars horizons, have taken place in a second law of thermodynamics violation on a rock we see as a mere light in the sky.
Well, hold on. I was told it's not a violation of the second law of thermodynamics up there. It applies down here.
That's called special
as far as
pleading.
the sky is, but not up there.
That's called special
It's
pleading.
different up there.
Special pleading fallacy.
How do we know?
Because we have these things called laws of nature. And how nature behaves is described in these laws. Inviolable, it's what is always occurring. So to appeal to a place that violates that natural law and say, well, the natural law doesn't apply up there, is a special pleading fallacy. Any
Yeah,
evidence
Neil.
that you can
Stop
have
and
gas
start.
pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon.
According to
Rover.
them, not up there.
The only thing
No, it's the
only
other
thing I
way
would say-
around. The second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the Earth.
The rover is evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container because they went there,
And when
they landed in the crater, and settled. NASA has settled it.
when you
Right. And likewise, you
you
can defy
imagine
aging
gas as
if you go through
bouncy
the
ball-
wardrobe. I've seen it. You go through the wardrobe, you spend a significant amount of time in Narnia, and then when you come back, you're the same age you went through. They filmed it. It's happened, Neil. No, it's a violation of natural law with a special pleading fallacy attached in this instance.
I'm just taking you through a conversation I had with somebody yesterday. This is the answers I'm getting back.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, special pleading. That's what you're getting back.
Yeah, but then I was asked, how do you know? Did we go up there?
How do I know?
haven't
We've got
gone
a
up
law
there
of nature.
personally.
Law of nature, just told you. How do we know? Well, there's laws of nature that describe the way nature behaves. And nature abhors a vacuum. There are no natural vacuums, but what you want me to believe that the entirety of everything above my head is a vacuum, an available volume for gas to fill. Look at the picture on screen, right? These little white bits, this is high pressure gas. And this is a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum in their fantasy, right? Well, entropy law, that's the second law of thermodynamics. This gas, which wants to expand in all directions, it's not going down, go boom, boom. It expands in all directions to fill the availability of volume it has to fill. Well, it'd fill this volume if it was a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. The problem is you don't get this view. Yeah? And what you get of a black area from a high altitude balloon is claimed to be a vacuum. Impossible. A violation of natural law. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I agree. But here's what's the scary thing is the deception is so deep that it just kept going back in a circle. Like, yeah, but they're there. They go there. They went, it's a real belief in the moon landing and that there's actual satellites.
Let it go. Let him go.
So it's hard because the deception is so deep. Like the normal person, they just believe it and that's it.
Time to let him go.
After you've pointed out that it's a violation of natural law and that he's not experiencing that place, he's only experiencing it on a television show, and then the comparison with Narnia is made, at that point, given that that person has no empirical evidence of their own or any experience of their own of a sky vacuum that stands in violation of natural law, all he's got to go on is what has been presented on TV. If that's his standard, then more power to you, my friend. Don't believe everything you see on TV. Sometimes they'll present you natural law violations and claim to be travelling through them. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Someone was trying to say something, Nathan.
No, I apologize, Nathan. I didn't mean to talk over you, but they would have to prove that natural laws don't work up there. But they're not doing that.
Up where? Up in the sky vacuum?
This is what I went through.
Vacuum.
Right.
I know.
So that's what they'll do. They use circular reasoning. So they say, well, obviously, we know it isn't going to fill the space because the sky is a vacuum and it's not filling it. So appealing to their fundamentalist religious zealotry to prove their religious zealotry. Oh, right. So because you think the sky is a vacuum, or because you've seen it on TV as a vacuum, therefore violation of natural law is perfectly acceptable. No, it isn't.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Nathan.
Hey, Brian.
and gas goes down, go boom boom.
No, it doesn't. It expands in all directions.
But it has a bias
you won't
towards
see
down.
it from that perception.
No, there is no bias towards down.
Because it has weight.
There's no bias towards down, otherwise there wouldn't be any air up in the sky at all. It's not biased
So
down.
you're saying gas doesn't have weight?
It expands in all directions. If you
That's
try
what
and
I
pour
hear.
steam onto a scale, what do you think's going to happen?
It was
Nothing.
Moves away from the scale?
There was a little point in Arwin's chat earlier, Nathan, on this along these lines, and it relates again to lack of understanding of gas behaviour in a certainly in a dynamic system, which we would describe ourselves in. Someone suggests saying to Arwin, "Well, tell me why then we're all not choking to death because carbon monoxide's pooling at the bottom, like you're in some kind of contained kitchen with a gas leak. It goes to demonstrate that people are still imagineering these molecules behaving like they're in Anthony's liquid density column, that they're going to order themselves in some form of it's not. It's dynamic, and each individual molecule is acting individually. There is no carbon dioxide pool of it acting as carbon dioxide, or no separate carbon monoxide. We've just got this admixture of all of them acting independently. Now that may lead to certain probabilities, certain things, but each molecule is acting on its own. It's very unlike, there's no link between one carbon monoxide molecule and another.
Yeah, no link, because they're not linked. They're unbonded. There's gaps between them. So one happy gas molecule moving around in its merry way just moves through the gaps. If it happens to collide with another one, elastic collision, doesn't lose any energy, changes direction and finds a new gap to go through, path of least resistance. That's it. Well, there's nothing stopping it getting in between. So the oxygen, in the case of Anthony's example originally, with the carbon dioxide layer, well, the air can get in between the gaps. And that's exactly what happens. So you don't end up with a pool of it.
It's the same even when they do the sulfur hexafluoride, and they... I mean, the trouble with that is you start with a fake synthetic concentration of this stuff, whether you're putting it in a fish tank or whatever. But as soon as that gas has the opportunity to interact with its environment, then it acts like gas. Now, it might be a bit slower because they are slow molecules. They're big, chunky molecules, so they'll be moving a lot slower than an oxygen or something like that. But they still follow the same laws, and hence why it doesn't stay in that fish tank. It will behave. Each individual molecule will eventually find a path out of there. There might be 1 hour, 2 hours later that's still running around because of the randomness of the collisions, that for some reason it keeps knocking on another molecule and being sent back down to the fish tank. So there might still be some in there, but eventually it all goes. But it goes on an individual molecule basis on each one's path.
So Adam, you're basically reminding me of a childhood story about the tortoise and the hare. The tortoise eventually gets there.
Well, in this case, yeah, I mean, if you think about gas, they're distributed normally. So even though you'd say the average is 500, some will be 750, some will be 350, etc. And it's a bit like, I was talking about this with John D in the week. It's a bit like cooling, because you've got a lot more and they're going a lot faster. They've got a lot more. Basically, the higher the pressure, it's like cooling. The higher the pressure, the quicker the dissipation will occur. But it also doesn't mean a fast molecule is going to get out of there, because its probability could have loads, like I said, those internal collisions. Yet you could have the hair slowly go out and not collide, because it's random path. So even molecule speed isn't necessarily the only predeterminant of it. It's all to do with entropy and probabilities. And as
Right.
Nathan said, I think
But it's proportional to time, and over time, the gas will fill the space. That's gas behaviour.
Yeah.
And how quickly it'll do it, you can describe and measure with entropy. The rate is proportional to time.
We have a dynamic system, and even indoors, you will have, because of the dynamic system we have, we are in a position to live in it and have an indoors. And indoors, the same as outside, you will have convection happening. So it's impossible for gas to stay in any way static. Even if you have a container with gas inside of it, it's inside a container. The container might be static, but the system it sits in is not static. So even a container with different gases in it won't stay static. It's going to always, with convection, it's going to move. There's no way to stop that. Hot, cold is going to constantly displace each other, and it's going to constantly have movement. So
Brian,
sorry, just let me just say, just finish this, Tent. So people's asking, why is there not a load of carbon dioxide or whatever pooling at the bottom on the ground level? Because of convection. Sorry, Tent, go on.
No, so you're saying there's no static quo.
Yeah.
Any more on the gas filling space if it was real? Ultimately debunking the recent claims of Mars landings that have taken a journey through this sky vacuum in violation of natural law to occur, to present you with the pictures on TV that you will never experience firsthand. Any more on this subject?
I have a quick video, a 20-second video to, if I can just join on my computer as well and share. So 20 seconds.
Okay.
Of the real world. It'll show two different things happening at one time.
Sure.
1 second, I'll join. Okay.
While he's looking, might as well re-ask the question. If anybody from Discord wants to pipe up, any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container? No?
No, all the examples is with a container.
This picture on screen, albeit of a molten iron core example, still has high pressure gas next to a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. Claim of a sphere Earth in a vacuum is fake. It's a complete lie. We wouldn't have any gas to breathe. We'd all be dead. This area here of extreme low pressure, aka vacuum, would be an area this gas that expands in all direction would want to fill. Right, Brian.
Okay, Nathan, 1 second now. I took this up the mountains there the other day. This is a 20-second video, and it will show water going down while gas that is condensing up the top of the mountain, not going down. It's actually still going up. So can you see this?
I can.
Okay.
Not quite.
Here we have water going down, and up here we have gas that is condensing into clouds, but it's not going down because it hasn't condensed to the point of all the bonds taking hold. So it's actually still not going down. Some of it is still going up. That's reality.
Yep.
And people might go, why are you showing us that? We know that. But it seems a lot of people don't.
Yeah, they think gas go down, go boom, boom. That this gas on its way up is actually subject to a downward vector, a calculable downward vector. And then when we ask for an example, well, what would demonstrate this? What would depict this? Well, let's show you a picture of some gas bouncy balls. Imagine they're like gas. Watch them go down. Well, the gas that has just been shown didn't behave like that in the slightest. No, it was still subject to down. It was going up, but it is actually down. You just don't understand. That's what we get. Like, no, it's not going down. It's making its way up. Just in violation of your down, go boom, boom gravity.
Analogy there. It's a bit like pouring the bouncy balls into the tank, and after a little bit of while, all those bouncy balls kind of levitating 2/3 of the way up the bouncy ball tank and still exhibiting that bouncing behavior, bouncing off of each other, but none of them going down, but staying in a kind of layer. That's what they show in there, that that equilibrium in the air there is allowing that layer, but fundamentally demonstrating that it's not subject to a overreaching downward vector. If anything, it's demonstrating the opposite.
Right. And gas has that
See
behavior.
how any gas could have got here in the first place.
Without
Because
containment, there would be no
how
pressure.
could an atmosphere ever have formed?
It wouldn't.
in the
Without
first
the
place?
container, there would be no pressure. So you wouldn't be able to form the gas pressure. It'd need to go up from the ground if it was formed there in their system, and then hit something to come back down and stay here. If it had nothing to hit, it would never form gas pressure because it's not pressing on anything. It would just expand into the sky vacuum and dissipate, never to return. And we'd never have formed gas pressure in the first place.
But this is where a baller
That's
would
right.
say, yeah, but the non-force force contained it.
Any
Yeah,
scientific,
that's why. Sorry, Nate.
any scientific evidence of gravity?
Not in that video.
Yeah, the gas didn't go down, go boom, boom like solid bonded bouncy balls used in false equivalence. No, it didn't. It went up. That's right.
Yeah.
I
The
saw in
water
that
was going down. Sorry.
I saw in that video an actual spring, but not the kind that Rumpus is talking about.
It's a waterfall, water going down, and the condensing gas that hasn't been condensed into phase change back into water yet is not going down.
Right, so the acquisition of intermolecular bonds to form liquid water would be the reason it fell down, go boom boom.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with gravity and everything to do with the intermolecular bonds in that example with the water cycle. However, if we assume that gas has many bonds like bouncy balls, then you can show it going down, even though it doesn't do that in reality. But you need it to if you're going to assert that, well, there's a force holding it here, stopping it going into the vacuum. It's the downward force. Look, watch bouncy balls go down, and then watch Brian show you what a cloud does.
Yeah, we're at the point where we have to actually just show them an actual video of reality, because explanation has not done it for 6 years.
Yeah, your false equivalents don't cut it. Gas doesn't go down, go boom boom, and showing us bouncy balls poured into a fish tank and saying that, imagine the bouncy balls are like gas. No, because gas isn't like that. It doesn't behave like that in any way, shape or form.
Gas
it would, however, dissipate into a sky vacuum if it was real, debunking space. So the best plan of attack, if you're a globe believer, is to then talk about acceleration and debate about that. Because then you're not talking about gas, not qualifying that it expands in all directions and therefore would fill a sky vacuum and we'd all be dead. Just argue about what a bouncy ball will do all day. That's much less damaging.
Quick question on that video again. Brian, if we were to just take a sample of the air where you were taking the picture and extrapolated the pressure, the density, the number of molecules per cubic meter there, and then we went up into that cloudy layer, would the density in the cloudy layer be higher or lower than where you were?
It's a good question.
Well, it would be slightly. It would be probably slightly higher because it's starting to condense. I would expect it to be a bit higher. But when it condenses, then it will turn into water.
No.
Hold on. Let me get this straight. You're saying that the density increases when you're going up into the clouds. That's an interesting point now, isn't it, Adam?
It's kind of a nonsensical.
I wonder who'll latch onto that.
Well, what I would say is water vapor is less dense than all the gases that make up air. So that density may not be a whole lot different. It might just appear different because it's water vapor. But once it gets past a certain point of that phase change, then it will be more dense.
It has to be. It's going to fall through. Exactly. I realise you're operating on the cusp of that phase change in terms of this description. I appreciate that, and it was qualified by Adam. But yeah, it must be. It's going to get so dense it falls back down again, right? So yeah.
Yeah, but it's denser than the stuff below it. Wow, when it turns into liquid, then the density of the cloud decreases because it's removed out of the gaseous phase. But at that point, before, the stuff above is more dense than the stuff below.
How interesting.
I don't know though, Adam, until the bonds take hold, because water vapor is less dense than all the gases we breathe. So it might just look more dense, but it may not be. I don't know. You could be 100% right.
Who cares? It's not gone down, go boom boom. There is no downward vector. The bonds, in terms of the intermolecular transition, the phase change, is what causes it to go down, go boom boom. This is annihilating the assertion that we have a gravity force and that we can assume that things going up are going down. It's like the most blatant doublespeak we've had to date on the debate. It's going up. No, think of it as going down. It's like, whoa, man. If you're watching this and you're on the globe side, I'd be shuddering.
I have a question for the globe group or anybody on the panel.
Go ahead.
Can you have acceleration without a force?
I'm hesitant to answer because of my my recent praise for Dr. John D. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
My answer would be not
isn't that
Newtonian
often what
mechanics.
they describe as a
good
force?
answer. Hold on, sorry, Rams. Can you repeat that, Adam? That was a good answer.
Not in Newtonian mechanics.
Good answer. There you go, Paul.
Okay, so
I would like
how
to
does
say
something
something
move
after
without
Brian.
something acting upon it?
Well,
How
would
does
say
the
something
moon
after
move with
Brian.
nothing
I'm just gonna
acting
say
upon it?
something, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the moon is. I don't know why it's moving.
You
Back
can
to my-
have acceleration without a force if you want to. Relative density is acceleration without a force. Is it not?
Good point
Are the
also.
other molecules-
There's a lot of pauses here
Hold on,
because
are the
everyone's
oth-
cogs are turning. Can you just repeat that, Brian, just in case it's slipping by people? These are epic points that should be laboured and paused on. Can you repeat yourself, please, Brian?
Yes, Nate, no hassles. Relative density causes acceleration, and that's not a force. So you can have acceleration without a force.
Well, here the only thing I would have asked about
Did
that
Anthony
are the
prove
other
that?
molecules.
Hold on,
Hold on.
Neil. Just let the points be made clearly. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, so are the other molecules acting upon the other molecules, causing it to accelerate?
There's a differential. There's a differential between the two things. Relative density disequilibrium to give you the direction or the vector. But there's a difference. There's a differential that's causing that, as opposed to a force.
I get that and I hear that, but I mean, but are the other molecules that, like, if you increase the density, you're actually adding molecules into the solution or whatever, and are those molecules acting upon thing that's moving in the solution?
In the most literal way, yes. Causing it to become or to be forced into disequilibrium. So yes.
So technically, you could say the force of the other molecules are causing the acceleration of the object in the solution.
I did. That's exactly what I said. I deliberately and intentionally included the word force for the purposes of your yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So there is a force. So there is a force involved. In
It can be
acceleration.
It can be described that way.
Yeah, you remember relative density has both down and up vector, and it also has down and up vector.
Come on, Paul.
No, that's it. I mean, if you've got an answer, that's great. I'd like to hear what the ballers have to say.
Have you been keeping up to date with Dr. John Dee's recent videos? He's done a series of 4 videos about this very subject. Have you seen them, Paul?
I have not. If you could
I strongly advise.
I will watch them.
Dedicate a couple. They're about 20 minutes each. So if you've got an hour or so spare, dedicate a bit of time. Stick them on in the background. It'll be very eye-opening. And maybe Adam can comment on this.
I was reading about clouds. I'm ever so sorry.
That's okay. Did you want me to prompt you into the conversation or what?
Yeah, bring me in because I was...
Okay, so we're talking... The question that's on the table currently is there a force when relative disequilibrium is... or relative density disequilibrium is achieved and there's a movement? Are the interactions or capable of being described as a force? Now, at that point, I shut my mouth and went, in light of Dr. John Dee's recent videos, I'm going to keep very stum. So maybe now that we've reached the point where I have, for Paul's example, I've said that in the most literal way, when you increase the density, it forces the item that you're observing out of equilibrium. So I've intentionally used the word force, but now I'm hoping you can comment on that. We'll see. We'll see where this goes.
I think if I'm going to use the term force, and something's making the things reorientate. So for me, I'm happy to use the term force. Something has forced it there. In this case, in terms of when we're looking at ordering and in density, then really the forces you would attribute to that would be intermolecular forces. So the alignment of the molecules, how the stoichiometry, I think it's the construction of the molecules and their charges and that force them to align, and how so it would be that intermolecular forces for me.
Okay, well, I'm
that
sorry to interrupt
cause
you,
that
Adam. I'm going to read out a
orientate or
comment.
ordering.
Just to disagree with you because of a comment we got earlier. And
Yeah.
we'll see if you agree with it. It's from Evan. Scroll up and find it. Evan 5935. There we go. Got it. Even if it did pool, now it in this example that he's talking about is gas. Okay, Adam? It's not a static system we live in. So whereas it might pool in a container on Earth, we have wind, movement, consistent gas generation, so it would be moved, used, etc. Now, the reason I'm reading out Evan's comment is because he is alluding to a static system with gas creating a density gradient, i.e. the most dense gases being at the bottom.
You can't have a static system with gas. It's not static by the very nature of the fact that it's gas.
I love having Adam on. It's so concise. Indeed. And why would that be? We covered this earlier.
Because it's gas. So by definition of gas behavior, we have individual molecules regulated their speed by PV equals nRT. So the conditions, but each molecule is acting on its own. The only way you can analogize it is to pressurize it so that you will get pooling there because you're getting phase change. But if you've just got the gases, then they're under standard conditions, they'll just keep moving based on PV equals nRT. Each one will have a different speed, but they'll just keep doing that, exhibiting gas behavior. If it's like your balloon, your balloon doesn't pool at the bottom, however long it deflates because of entropy, because of gas loss. But you don't see the molecule slow down unless you reduce its temperature.
Right. So in other words, when you have the intermolecular bonds, it's something that can stop either something that's in disequilibrium, a different material, or the same material, if it happens to be in a gaseous state where it comes across this loosely bonded liquid state, it can't get through anymore. There's no gap.
Yeah. So when I was a little off there. When I was talking about those intermolecular forces, I am talking with regards to solids and particularly liquids there where you see it play out more. When you're talking in terms of gases, then they're not acting like that. They're colliding and disappearing again. They're not subject to their behavior being, because they're not close together. They don't have to behave because they're squished together like in a liquid or solid. They're so far apart. If they hit each other and off they go again. Their behavior isn't constrained by the charges on the atoms and stuff and that sort of behavior. It's just literally smash and off you go. Your next collision, but you just keep going and going and going.
I would have something to say on that, though. Kind of a little bit in line with what Evan wrote. Convection will change the density of the gas. Hot air will rise and cold air will fall, but that's maybe not the best way to describe it. Hot and cold air will displace each other.
Yeah.
This is where you get into fluid dynamics.
Hold on,
there is a pocket of air that is heated. Maybe there's direct sun on that, so it's energized. But the nitrogen, the oxygen, the carbon dioxide, they're all energized. And so what you then see is diffusion with that other pocket of air near. So they start to interact, and that's where you get fluid dynamics described. But it's the pocket that's behaving and diffusing. The individual molecules and the different elements in there aren't behaving differently. If you increase that pocket, then or relatively they all speed up. If you increase the temperature of that pocket, they all speed up, but they're still speeding up. So
it's the difference
between. There's not really a point to get where you're going to have.
It isn't. Let me just try. What you're describing is the gaps in between when you've got something that's unbonded versus something bonded, and that has no effect on the description that's being given by Brian. What you're describing just affects the rate of entropy, and you're having it described to you as a diffusion effect between one pocket that's at a potentially higher pressure than the gas next to it, and therefore you're going to have it align with entropy, i.e. it's going to diffuse into that area over a period of time. But that's going to be affected by how hot it is, how cold it is, i.e. the rate will change, but how the gas behaves fundamentally with gaps between it with something that's potentially claimed to be less dense, just flying in between a load of stuff that's more dense. And suddenly that stuff has got less dense stuff mixed in between. And over time, it will just diffuse. That's just how it behaves. It's gas. But it doesn't affect the rate. The rate is what you're describing when you've got, like, a convection.
Yeah. I suppose simply I'm saying that the things that are being postulated there, they do affect it, but they don't change its fundamental behavior. That fundamentalness, all you're doing is agitating more. Yeah, that's all you're doing is just agitating the same system, but the system's still behaving fundamentally the same way. So if you didn't agitate and you just maintain the same, you're not going to get, for me, you'd need a long time, and it'd be probability based on particle speed and collisions, but you're not going to get ordering, to me, of any significance if the containment is just gas. You don't get ordering in a balloon when you're blowing it. You know what I mean? You blow a balloon up, you don't get ordering of the gas. The gas just continues to behave. Now that will be made worse, so that there's absolutely complete randomness by things like winds and the sun, when it then puts and creates higher energy systems that then will diffuse into lower energy systems, and so on and so forth. So that I think the way me and John D talked about it, the way is, I said to him, are you basically trying to describe the sun as a big thermal spoon? And that's how I'd describe it. But
and that's a good description. I mean, it was described about 2 years ago by Quantum Eraser as the greatest entropy generator known to man. And when you describe agitation, you're describing our influence on forcing disequilibrium, which has formerly been described as force. Well, what we see when we describe these dynamic systems is either an attempt to reach equilibrium and then a cycle forming, a perpetual cycle, which is harmonious in itself, self-contained harmony, because it's cyclical. But it's only cyclical because of its attempt, nature's attempt, and this isn't the reification fallacy, to seek equilibrium, which is all it ever does.
Yeah. When the sun heats up that bit over here and it's next to a bit that's now generally cooler, then those two things, because they are next to each other with no barrier, then they'll diffuse and and they will reach equilibrium again. If the sun's then moved over, left those two bits, those areas will equilibrate again. That's the way it works.
Indeed.
Well, could I just say, just on that point there, a while back we were talking about the question that Paul asked that kind of got us onto this track. Can acceleration exist without a force? Well, relative density is not really a force, but it does cause a force. But if we're talking about something like gas behavior, convection is the force that causes the changes in density and the movement. So convection is the force there. But in general, relative density causes a force. Because relative density is not a force, it's more of a description, isn't it? Rather than you're describing what happens due to density changes in accordance with the medium. Would you agree or disagree?
Could I ask Adam a question?
I suppose so.
Could I? Adam, you mentioned about 3 minutes ago, that you can work out the velocity of gas molecules from PV equal to nRT. Would you like to describe how you can do that?
No, I didn't say you could describe. I said the gas molecules are normally distributed. So when you look at the gas molecule, it's not like every single one's going 500 miles an hour. It follows it. So some are going a bit faster, some are going a bit slower, but it's normally distributed. That was the point I was making on this.
How do you use the formula that you offered to help you do that?
No, I didn't. I said within that, where we're looking at that, and we're talking about the gas molecule speeds. If we look at PV equal nRT, we can increase they're all relative, those functions. So if we increase the temperature, then the molecules are going to go faster, aren't they?
So how do you use the formula PV is equal to
I'm
nRT
not,
to
I
help you
wouldn't
work out the
use it for that.
velocity?
So I was saying,
That's what you said. You said you'd use PV is equal to nRT, the gas law, to determine the velocity of the molecules. How do you do that?
You wouldn't use that word. That I didn't. And if that's a
You wouldn't
mystery,
use
the
that
point I
formula
was
then.
making
So you were
was
wrong.
that PV equals
So you're wrong
nRT
to say that.
demonstrates that if you increase the temperature, you'll increase the speed of the molecules, doesn't it? That within the
So
gas
you're
law.
wrong
Yeah,
then to say that PV is equal to nRT would help you determine the velocity of the molecules. You were wrong in that.
Stop being silly. Yeah.
So were you or were you not correct in saying you use that formula to determine the velocity of the molecules? Yes or no? Were you wrong or not?
Is the point I'm making correct? If I increase the temperature, will the gas molecules go faster or slower?
Formula PV is equal to nRT to determine.
Rumpus, if I increase the temperature, will the gas molecules go faster or slower?
So let's try it again. You made the statement.
If I increase the temperature, will the gas molecule go faster or slower?
Velocity of the molecules. Were you wrong in saying that? Yes or no?
I'm done with him, Nath. Waste of time, mate. He's just, I don't know what he's trying to point, but I mean, the basic principle I'm making is there. So if you can answer that.
No, it's got to the point where you're asking him something, therefore he's going to now say, you need to continually answer my questions, and I'm not going to answer anything you put to me, but I will talk through it every time you attempt to ask him something.
Yeah.
He hasn't answered my question.
Immediately, he hasn't answered my question. No, he's going into detail. There's a back and forth that he might require Rumpus answer a question, but he's not tolerant of that.
I asked him a question.
I know. And then he gave you an answer, and then there's a supplementary question for you that's following that, and you don't want to tolerate it. We know what's happening.
Hasn't answered the question.
Yeah, I know. You're just going to bleat that he hasn't answered you continually. Yeah, there's no back and forth, only you in the driving seat. No, that's not happening, Rumpus. I told you last time. No.
Formula is the one to use.
No, you're not going to just babble and get your way and say, no, you're just going to be answering my questions. That's not happening. I've told you before.
I'm happy to answer any questions he's got.
Excellent. Go ahead. Ask him, please.
So, if I increase the temperature, will the gas molecules go faster or slower?
That's not the answer to my question, which is...
So, when you said you were happy to be asked anything, well, your response is that's not the answer to my question. So what you actually mean to say is, I'm happy to ask questions and get them answered and nothing else. Yeah, we know. I've pointed that out. This is the third time. We know.
He's currently deflecting like crazy.
No, not deflecting. That's what you're doing. It's ultimately also projection. When you deflect a question that you said you were happy to answer and then claim we're deflecting because it wasn't the answer you were hoping for, you weren't asking, you were being asked. And all you've done now is manage to achieve your namesake, cause a bit of a disruption, so that maybe the audience will lose track of the fact that the V in this particular law that's being described would also debunk space. It's a volume, isn't it?
Let's deal with the question I asked. I'm happy.
No. I've already told the audience and you, and last time you came, that it's not just going to be a constant barrage of questions from you, with you ignoring everything put to you, claiming you're really happy to hear it, and then saying that's not the answer to my question in response. Yeah, that's not going to happen. You don't seem to understand. You don't seem to be getting it. No, we're not just going to take your questions. What I will do is point out that what we're describing has a V in it. Yeah? And that V is a volume. Now, if we look at the picture on screen, we've got gas. And if we're going to use this formula, what's the volume? Adam, what volume would we use if we were going to calculate for the gas in the picture on screen?
Can't see the picture. Where are we?
Picture of Earth in space.
Oh, well, you would unfortunately, I think the ballers have assigned a number to the infinite vacuum of space, but I would suppose have to assign a drunken 8 to it.
In what, infinite?
Yeah.
Right, I mean, they have given a number, but ultimately speaking, the point of this discussion is that the volume would be the volume that the gas has available to it to use this calculation. Now, if that was something being put to me as a glober, what I would want to do is pick on one of the panel members personally, pick on some minor detail that you feel he's got wrong, and focus on that. Because if you do, the conversation will quickly veer away from how fake space is. Because in the formula being discussed, there's a V in it. Now, the V is the volume, and space is a volume.
I'll just quickly
You
address that.
muted me, so I didn't
understand
hear what you
Rumpus
said.
was getting at now. He's on about the root mean square velocities, which you still have to use the gas formula T, etc., etc. But if you want, as I said, it's normally distributed. So you do what's called a root mean square velocity. I think that's what Rumpus is referring to. If you wanted to actually calculate the individual particles of, say, the oxygen speed or the nitrogen, I think that's what he's frantically trying to find a point to pick me up on, which has got no real relevance to the point I was making. But yes, that is a different formula.
I see. But ultimately, in terms of PV equals nRT, we've still got a V in it, though, and that would be the volume of space, wouldn't it?
Do you use that formula?
No, you're not going to take control of the conversation. We're now having a conversation about how space is fake. Now, I realise that you want to focus on some minor detail, Rumpus. I'm just not allowing you. You refused to answer a question put to you and said, when declaring how much you wanted to answer it, you were asked and said, that's not the answer to my question. Now you don't get to play anymore. You can bleat about how you're getting muted when I'm having to shut your line down because you're interrupting Adam. Maybe bleat that you can't hear while you interrupt what's being said. Yeah, no, that's not happening. We're just discussing how fake space is and how gas law debunks it. Now, attempting to talk through every word of that, it's not going to work either. You can bleat about how the show's formatted. I don't care. Go ahead, Adam. V, right? V would be the volume of space and gas would be filling it in line with that law, wouldn't it?
Yeah, be a very big number.
Yeah, a huge
Could
volume.
I make a suggestion?
Go on.
To leave Rumpus answer his own question, as that's what he wants to do anyway.
Right. No, he wants to cause a disruption. You were always under the misapprehension that Rumpus wants to come here and somehow be cooperative. He just wants to take the conversation away from how fake space is, discuss one personal detail about one member of the team, rather than focus on the V in PV equals nRT and how volume would be the volume of space.
His exact
He's
point,
a dishonest
if you want to know
moron.
what it was,
He will not.
is
He
that
doesn't
I
know
was
what he's talking
about.
about, and now I've shown he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's dodging the question.
Just mute him up for me, and I'll address the point. So what he was trying to do, Brian, was when we were having that discussion, and I was talking about particle speed, and then I quoted PV equals nRT. He wanted to bring me back to the simple fact that actually, if you wanted to calculate particle speed, you use the root mean square of it, and it takes parts in there. But like I said, it had nothing to do with the point I was making.
PV is equal to nRT, though, has it?
Simple question then, which sits overreaching all of this, which is do the particles go faster or slower if we heat them up? So it is exactly as Nathan describes. He's come in to cause a rumpus over nothing. It's not addressing the issue we were discussing. It's a minor detail, which I think I've addressed quite sufficiently. So I think we're done with him, really.
Question.
Yeah,
and he's still not up.
We discussed it with constant fundy interruption from you so that we couldn't nicely summarise the obfuscation tactic that you've used, the personal attack that you're employing, and the obfuscation from the overall point that's being discussed, and that would be how fake space is. Now, you've brought in a, problem with PV equals nRT? And we're saying, well, V is a volume. Now, according to the rhetoric of Globe Earth, this area on screen, this black bit, is space. That's a volume. Well, according to that law, the gas beneath it would be filling it rapidly because it's claimed to be 10 to the minus 17 torr, and your calculation that somehow you've got an issue personally with Adam over debunks space. And that's all I'm interested in. Now, you don't have to address it. You can try and talk through it continually, maybe attempt desperately and feebly to get it back onto some personal issue you've got about something Adam said that you want to misconstrue to take us away from how fake space is. But that's what the debate's about, how fake space is. And that V debunks space. You don't have to like it. You can rumpus all day. We don't care. So about that V, Adam.
Giant. And PV equals nRT. If we stick with that formula, and then the reality is that whenever they try to do any calculation, because the Earth is in their model open, unfortunately the V has to encompass both their atmosphere and the rest of the space surrounding it. So means you have zero. There would be zero pressure,
Right.
on Earth. It would soon be gone.
We'd all be dead if the black area was a vacuum. We'd all be dead. We'd have no gas to breathe. You can calculate how quickly it would go. Oh, right, no, that's not how you'd calculate the rate. Oh, right, that's fascinating. Still a volume for gas to fill, though. Contrary to this minor point that you wanted to quibble over, the V is still the volume that we'd be calculating, and the volume doesn't go up to the Kármán line, as they assert. They arbitrarily assign a line, don't they, Adam, at the Kármán line?
Again, me and John were talking about this in the week, and he was trying to say, well, how quickly would it disappear? I said, well, that whole premise is based on the fact that you start with a pre-assigned system in the first place, which via their model is impossible to happen because they would have to gather atmosphere. So at no point would there be a point in their model that this thing could just disappear off, have a potential to or to stay, because there would never be a starting point.
Right.
Even if we had, for whatever we gave the production at ground level, then any gas particle that has any upward vector, it has nothing to interfere with it. It's a bit like the Kármán line. There's nothing to interfere with it. So any particle with an away vector or a vector towards the vacuum never comes back. It's gone. So the only alternative is the rate of production is so high. That is what maintains it. But that, again, is contradictory in their model. They claim only a slight loss.
Right. I'd ask Rams to join in because that was initially his point. But the idea behind Rumpus's presence is to disrupt a conversation like this that's nice and calm and concise about how the gas wouldn't develop in the first instance. Because how would you calculate it? Well, you'd have to have a massive amount of it to overcome the V. In other words, the gas would have to fill the whole of space to eventually develop pressure, right? Now, in their model, where they have space sky vacuums, they don't do that. They just arbitrarily assign a line called the Kármán line and say, well, that's the amount of space that the gas has got to fill. We'll use that as our V. Right, Adam?
Yeah. But we could just focus on that. I might have misspoken and not necessarily stated something that I did know correctly anyway, and completely go off topic, instead of pointing out that all of this gas laws that Rumpus is so keen to talk about disprove the fact that his model could ever exist.
Yeah, but Adam, we were conversating. He didn't come into conversation or debate. He came into attack, and that's the difference.
Well, that's what I was saying. It was exactly that. Look where it went. We were talking about what it is, but instead we want to talk about the correct formula.
Have you ever been wrong with anything you've ever said? Because I know for a fact you have. Have you ever been wrong?
It's very, 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 very unusual.
Oh, almost very, 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 very. Let me say it about 20 more times for you, because that's what you do. Very, 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 very annoying that you want to call people out when honey.
Yeah, so that's what he wants to achieve. He wants to rile a few people on the panel up so that, you know, the discussion goes his way and very much away from fake space and the V being the volume that you'd calculate, the initial gas pressure that would never develop. If there was an infinite sky vacuum, we'd never achieve gas pressure in the first place. But if that nice, calm conversation can turn into, look how angry Nathan gets when I completely obfuscate this fake space point that's being made by causing a row in the Discord server.
Adam. No row, just play some of his clips. Let him hear how stupid he sounds.
We're just muted here. So
no, you're just spiraling, Rumpus. That's all you're doing. You're spiraling right now.
I just wanted an answer to my question. I don't.
Yeah. You wanted to take control of the conversation and get an answer to your question. When we're talking about something that you've brought up, in this case, the V in PV equals nRT, you've got a problem. The V is space.
No, we don't. Not at all.
Where'd you get the V?
No problem whatsoever.
Okay. Earth is a sphere. Where'd you get the V?
But there is no fixed volume for the atmosphere.
Well, in PV equals nRT, it's got a V. So where'd you get it?
That equation does not apply to the atmosphere because there's no...
Sorry, the equation doesn't apply to the air we're breathing. This is a law of nature. Why would you say it doesn't apply to air? That seems very peculiar. I mean, that's all I need from him, really. What have you got to say on this, Adam? He's saying it doesn't apply to the air. Why would he say that?
No, I don't know. Once again, the only thing you can know is that because if he did apply it to the air, then it destroys his model, doesn't it?
Right. So we
So
do
you
have
to make
air,
a false
and we do
claim
have gas law describing how it behaves. But if we're going to beg the question of a sphere air, that's atmosphere, sphere air, then this doesn't apply. No, it just annihilates the claim that we've got sphere-shaped air in a sky vacuum. It just annihilates that. You know, the only thing I would do if I was a fundy having this put to him is I'd talk through every single word of it.
It's a debating channel, supposedly.
Please, so now he's talking about baking channels. Literally a complete red herring obfuscation, while I concisely pointed out that the V debunks space, because that's the volume. When I say, where'd you get a V for your atmosphere? He says, atmosphere doesn't need a V, this doesn't apply. No, it just debunks space, because you've got sphere-shaped air in a vacuum, and that hasn't got this equation even being applicable. So you're telling me that this that you've quibbled with over with Adam, you can't even apply to your model?
It's show. If you don't like it, go.
I know it's caused disruption, so no discussion anymore. If you're a fundy and you want to bleat about Rumpus's behaviour, no discussion anymore. I was responding to him. He said it's not applicable. I'm trying to keep us on track. And so you're telling me that this isn't even applicable to atmosphere? Wow, how deeply devastating. Not even applicable, Adam. Can't even apply this to atmosphere. Did you know that?
Well, why would you want to calculate the speed of these things then, if you can't even apply it to your model? I mean, I suppose I understand why you wouldn't want to, because you.
It's just going to talk through you, Adam, complaining about being muted, it seems. Yeah? You're going to pick up on how he's quibbled over this particular issue, and he doesn't want to listen. Maybe when he's interrupted it enough, he can then bleat that he didn't hear while his constant interruptions were going on. Yeah, feel free to attempt to continue, Adam.
I could try, but is he on?
I'm here. I'm unmuted, presumably.
Actually, Rumpus, you made it where I don't even understand the question anymore, because this is what you do. You're derailing the whole conversation, and you're talking even over me because...
Yeah. That's what he needs to do. Feel free to continue, Adam. We'll illustrate to our audience how space is fake nice and calmly, while Rumpus causes his little disruption in the Discord server, shutting down Discord, but not this conversation.
Yeah. I think we just point out that what Rumpus did was to come in and, instead of address the point that we were talking about, that with regards to their model, the vacuum of space means their V has to be infinite or assigned to such a large number. And the consequences of that is for Rumpus to say that, unfortunately, this natural law that he so desperately wants to pick me up on in my understanding has now been shown to be completely irrelevant to his model, because he's just demonstrated you don't need a V in PV equals nRT when you're discussing the atmosphere.
That's
Atmospheres
right.
don't have a V.
That's right. According to Rumpus, this law doesn't even apply to your fundamentalist religious sphere Earth belief. And its sphere-shaped air law doesn't even apply. With that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you first and foremost to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Make an absolute sense, you see, to the audience, and that's why he had to come in and attack it. He needed to
Absolutely.
attack common sense, logic, facts. He needed to attack that.
Yeah, you can't have that go out.
No, you can't have actual reality be talked about.
Yeah, sound smart and sound like somebody else is making a mistake.
Fortunately, it doesn't even apply
Adam
to
was
their
completely wrong in everything
atmosphere.
he said.
It
Adam
doesn't
was
even
completely
apply,
wrong in everything he
Rumpus.
said.
This quibble you had, It doesn't even apply to your fundy sphere belief and sphere-shaped air. It doesn't even apply.
He made a statement about...
Doesn't even apply. Yeah? Yeah? Doesn't even apply to your fundy model in your sphere-shaped air law. This doesn't even apply. Natural law doesn't apply to your model. How pathetic.
Things natural law. No, it
doesn't apply. Hello? You don't have a V. You don't need to worry about a V, and this doesn't apply to atmosphere. So this natural law doesn't even apply to your model. My God.
I'm talking about that.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're pummeling the fact that natural law doesn't apply to a heliocentric model. You've just made that absolutely clear. It doesn't even apply.
How you get the velocity of molecules from the gas law, and you don't.
Sorry, this doesn't even apply to atmosphere, so I don't know why you're discussing it. You've got a fundy belief in air that's sphere-shaped, and this doesn't even apply to that. So why are you discussing this? Go away to some fundy religious group where you can talk about how your sphere-shaped air law doesn't apply to natural law. Yeah, go away. Talk to some religious tard about how your sphere-shaped air law doesn't comply with natural law, and therefore you're not going to apply it because you've got a fundy belief in air that's sphere-shaped in violation of natural law. Therefore, natural law don't apply, right?
No such thing as natural law.
Wow. Again.
Yeah. Yeah, you deny the very thing you quibbled over with Adam as being completely irrelevant and not even existing. Yeah?
No, hold on. I denied PV's reality. That's not the thing I was talking about with Adam with. Well, not the velocity of the atoms.
What's the V for the atmosphere?
There is no fixed velocity volume for the atmosphere.
Is it velocity or is it volume? Do you not know? Do you not know what PV equals nRT means? Is it velocity or volume?
Apply to the atmosphere.
Sorry, do you not know what the V stands for? You said two different descriptions of the V.
That's volume in the PV.
Oh, volume? Well, space would be a volume, would it not?
There's no fixed...
Space would be a volume, would it not?
Yeah, but it doesn't... That's not...
Yeah! Space would be a volume. So we can calculate this then, with the volume of space then.
It's not relevant.
Not relevant? It just debunks your entire religion of a sky vacuum, because we could calculate it. We've got a volume. That would be the space it could fill. And your space is even called space.
It's not relevant to the...
Not relevant? Just the death of your sky vacuum. Apparently there's a hand wave dismissal being used.
You don't understand where...
I don't understand. Maybe an ad hominem attack and burden of proof reversal fallacy about what I've just described. No, we've definitely got a V we could apply. It would be the amount of space the gas could fill. And it's unusual that your space the gas could fill, the volume we could apply, we definitely have it, is even called space. Isn't that funny? But apparently this isn't applicable. Your space isn't a space, right? It's not a V.
This is space.
Oh, it is? Well, then we can calculate it with this formula, can we not?
That law doesn't apply to...
Oh, it doesn't apply to sphere Earth? Why not?
Because the volume can change. Because the
volume can change. So you're saying that a changeable volume wouldn't be calculable. But we've still got a volume. It's designated. We get a volume for space. We know what they claim it is.
We don't know what the volume of the...
Well, it's claimed to have a specific amount attributable, so we could at least make an attempt to calculate
3.58 times 10 to the 80th cubic meters, as a matter of fact.
Did you hear that?
What space volume?
Did you hear that, Rumpus? Seems we've got a value for V.
For what?
V. The thing you didn't understand 2 minutes ago and gave two different descriptions for. The volume. Do you want to repeat that, Quantum Racer, in case he denies it in a moment?
Yeah, Mr. Gases or solids, the volume is 3.58 times 10 to the 80th cubic.
Oh, he seems to be talking through of what? We've clarified it 5 times for you. V, the volume of space that gas could fill. Yeah, in this formula there's a V. Of what? You're a bit slow.
Of what?
Do you need me to tell you for a 5th time that we're talking about the volume that the gas could fill? That would be the availability of space for gas, even though I slowed right down and pointed out that the space the gas could fill would be the V, and your space is called space. Maybe clarify it again. No, it's just an obfuscation tactic. We'll give you the number and see if you're smart enough to calculate this with the V designated as the volume of space. Go ahead, Quantum Eraser. He won't interrupt you a second time.
I already said it 3 times. 3.58 times 10 to the 80th cubic meters. He doesn't even know what his religion says from his priests.
So is the volume of the universe, is that the volume you're giving us?
No, that's the volume your rhetoric gives us. Don't try and reverse this burden. No, that's what we're pummeling, Rumpus. That's what you morons say. That's not what we say. We're clarifying your position that you're very hazy about and need to constantly clarify what we're talking about when we're very specific. We're talking about the space. Space. That's fake. Gas would fill it. It's the V in this formula. You're too thick to keep up. Nah, just very, or seeming to think you're clever by obfuscation. You're not. Yeah, well, so we've got a formula and we can calculate it because we've now got the V.
Of what?
Oh, of space. That area that doesn't really exist, that we're not claiming when we give the volume you claim in its actual number that you say is variable, even though we've got a number for it now. Maybe we could obfuscate away from the fact we've got a V for space, a space for gas to fill, and fill it would. It's called entropy. The rate would be calculable, wouldn't it, Rumpus?
Are you referring to the volume of the universe, QE? So I can't get Nathan to...
No, your claimed volume of the universe that we're annihilating, because it wouldn't be where gas would fill in line with this law?
So is it the volume of the universe that he's offering me?
No, you're offering it to us, we're clarifying it. It's not our claim, it's yours. Second attempt to reverse the burden of proof. No, we're not claiming the sky's a vast space for gas to fill, because if it was, gas would fill it, and we'd all be dead. So this is definitely not our stupid claim, it's yours.
I'm going to get an answer, am I?
Sorry, when you're talking through us clarifying that it's your position we're taking apart, and we don't need to confirm that as our position, your third attempt to reverse the burden of proof talk through to obfuscate. Maybe talk through it continually, so you don't have to address the fact that it's your third attempt to reverse the burden of proof and get us to clarify this space as our space we're claiming when we're clarifying it as your space.
Is it the
we're
volume of the universe?
debunking. Yeah, we're debunking this area that we've now put a ascribable number to so we can calculate it as V. It is space, a volume.
No, there's no fixed volume of space. Are you...
Oh, really? There's no space? Yeah, we know. Space is fake. Yeah, this idea of a volume for gas to fill is completely absurd and fake. We know, Rumpus. Yeah, and you're not going to take our position in defence of fake space either. You failed to reverse the burden of proof and get us to clarify your position. I detailed how we're clarifying your position and debunking it as a space because gas would be filling it.
QE, we can't get any sense out of Nathan.
Yeah, no, you can't listen to me. You have to talk through me. That's fine. The audience can hear how the V in the discussion, your quibble with Adam that you entered on, would be this vast area of space for gas to fill. And fill it must, in line with entropy law. And when we asked you about it, you said it wasn't applicable. So we've got really good stuff from you, thanks to me. Maybe I'm just incoherent. Nah, just pummeling space. It's not real. Gas would be filling it. We've got natural laws that describe how it'd fill it. And the V would be space. Maybe ask me again what this or it, when talking about space for gas to fill, is. Maybe gain clarity on it and tell me that it's variable and we've got a number ascribed to it that you've obfuscated ever since we tried to bring it up. Doesn't matter. Space is still fake. It would be an area of volume for gas to fill. In line with natural law, it'd be calculable with entropy. Gas would fill the space.
And bring it up.
Well, he's just monologuing. I just want to know...
Yeah, get lost. Means not. I'm not listening when he says I'm monologuing, so now that's the end of his time here. He absolutely isn't listening
Nathan,
to a single word I say anymore.
Nathan, Ballbusters, put that up on your screen.
Okie doke. Let's have a little look. Okay. If you allow me to beg the question of geometric horizon, I can logically crush as a baller. I'm supposed to be reading this out.
No, it's no, it's a screenshot. What the heck are you reading?
Don't know. I just went to Ballbusters. Oh no, I'm in Master B. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, I've got it up. Yes, got it on screen.
You're being generous, John, weren't you? Look, you were giving him a smaller volume because they say it's 4 times 10. So you were being kind there, which
they just rounded it up.
Okay, so on screen we've got a description of the availability of volume that gas would fill if space was a space. There it is on screen. That's where we got to with Rumpus, and that was the end of the conversation. It had to descend into chaos from that point, because then he can calculate the V in it, can't he? With this number. And here it is. What's
he doesn't even know his own religion. That's the problem.
What's this from?
That's his alma mater wiki.
Fine. So we've definitely got a value for V that he could calculate. But of course, as soon as he does it, do you know what would happen when he does? We'd have no gas to breathe.
Have you guys ever considered that Rumpus might just be a eclectic heliocentrist? So he's his own model things?
No, he's absolutely in line with the double speak contradiction, so he knows what to assert as correct in the heliocentric model and knows how to deny it emphatically 20 seconds later.
Right, but he does think that the Earth moves in lockstep with the air and all that, so he does contradict the narrative, not because he doesn't understand it, but because he's choosing his own thing, I think. So, I don't know.
Well, just to summarise what actually happened, we had Rumpus come in to criticise Adam on his use of PV equals nRT. Now, when we asked him about how this would be applicable to a sphere-Earth model, we got a very clear answer. This doesn't even apply.
Well, I'd just like to say that Rumpus got his own way again in a matter of speaking, because the show became about him and his nonsense. He's proven over and over again he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's willing to say anything at any point just to try and win a point.
The audience heard, though, that what he came in with, and how quickly he even understood what he was trying to do. It was easily and quickly demonstrated, and then brought him back to listen to him waffle.
What was he trying to get you on? It was like you were just speaking just casually, and he tried to jump on you about it.
Exactly.
What was his claim going to be? Sorry.
So within what we were talking about with the clouds and stuff, he was just, I'd mentioned PV equals nRT, and then in some other bit, I'd mentioned the speed of the molecules being normally distributed. To just say that they're not all going one speed, not all the oxygens are going one speed. There's variety in there. It's just and so what he was trying to come in and then destroy me was, that's not the formula, which when I realized what he's saying, I said, no, it's not. You would use the root mean square formula to calculate it. You know what I mean? So I don't, again, it's just trivial and pathetic what he was trying to come in. And the point he was trying to come in on had no bearing on what was being said. And then as Nathan demonstrated, well, if you're going to then want to use these formulas, let's look at them. How do they apply to your model that you're wanting to criticize on our use of them, which was, false criticism anyway. And he's got nowhere to go because, as he stated...
Oh, hold on, he went somewhere. He told us they didn't apply. This isn't applicable. It doesn't apply to atmosphere. Therefore, you can't apply natural law to my heliocentric sphere-Earth belief with its sphere-shaped air law. That just doesn't work. Natural law doesn't work. He told us. We got a great little disclaimer from him. Believe me, I'll be trimming it out.
So natural law don't exist.
Adam, he just basically came in just to ad hom you, because that's what that was. It was a personal attack. It wasn't a conversation or attack on the argument. He just came in to try and trap Adam on something casually that Adam said. So that's all he did.
Rumpus, I own the Rumpus. I own him.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, because he tried to catch me out, and I took his challenge up on calculus, and I smashed him with it. And as you can see, he's just tries to be clever, but he's not that clever, is he? If you're actually dealing with somebody who knows what they're on about, you can see where his rumpusing is. He's not even making a point to defend his model.
He said he's never wrong.
To try and derail the conversation. And if you, I'm lucky, that's my field. So when he comes in, even with his derailing, you can spot it straight away. And if he really wants to hold me up, maybe I did say it, didn't say it. It's not what I meant. So I retract any, you know what I mean? But it's his it's obvious his tactics. It's
He's in delusional world. He thinks he's
I'm
wrong.
happy.
It's not a playground peer pressure based virtue signaling.
Look how he falls apart with it, and he gives you the soundbite you're after. He has to admit that volume doesn't apply in his world, So I'll let him do his silly little act.
I think it was beautiful, Adam, because he came in to set a trap for you, but he fell into his own trap, and we got a golden statement out of him.
Well,
He's a Heyman.
What he ended up, what Adam, you ended up saying about the temperature, that was the absolute answer. He couldn't answer that when you said to him, well, temperature changes the speed that the gas will move at because it excites it or whatever, or doesn't excite it. It's like that. Like, I couldn't go. I was thinking, where is Rumpus coming from with this? That's why I said, Nathan, why don't you just? I said to Nathan, I said, why don't you just leave him answer his own questions? That's what he wanted to do. Because I thought he was going to start trying to say you have to also use the force of gravity. But gravity's not a force. Yeah.
He just wanted to go, ha, you've got the wrong formula. It's like, well.
It was that pathetic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, when it boils down to it, you've got the formula wrong. All right, let's have a little look at that formula that you're raising in objection. How does it apply to sphere Earth? It doesn't. We can't. It's not applicable. Really? Natural law doesn't apply to your Earth as a sphere model with a sky vacuum? The very point we were making. Yeah? How joyful. Thanks for coming.
He doesn't hear what any of us say because he's just talking most of the time.
Yeah, his only real objective is to cause disruption. That's his name. Rumpus means disruption. So while he's got to have a reasonable knowledge to be able to edge his way into the conversation, as long as he can descend it away from the point and into chaos, then he's won. Well, after 4 years, I'm afraid not. We'll carry on nice and calm, and you can bleat about how you're being treated. And when you do, I'm just going to call you a masochist again. Oh, you don't like it? Why are you still here? Oh, right, you've obviously got an objective, right? Yeah, and you're still here while I'm pointing that out? Wow. That's interesting too. Meanwhile, we're pointing out our fake spaces and your disruptions aren't working.
I want to hear some more what Kiwi has.
Yeah, could we go over some credibility? Can you go to Ballbusters and then pull that up on your screen and then just go through them? It's not a long list.
Doing the universe thing, John.
Okay, I've got them up, but they're too small for me to read on my projection screen that goes out to the audience, so someone else is going to have to read them.
Can't you make it bigger?
No, because then it won't scale nicely for the audience.
I'll play Patsy if you want. Just something profound I've just noticed. Within this volume of the universe, there's a secondary claim. Apparently the universe is a sphere because they calculate the volume with 4/3 pi r cubed. So they're also divining a shape to the universe as well when they calculate it. Right, Rumpus. Air is not the atmosphere. Number 2, you don't have to be conscious to make an observation. Number 3, you don't need to have a cause and effect relationship.
Wow.
Number 4, the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the Earth. 5, there's no such thing as natural laws. Nice.
Said that today.
Number 6, pendulums go around in a figure 8. 7, measuring things is not maths.
Wow.
Number 8, gases effectively have little springs on them, pulling them towards the Earth. Number 9, the lens of the human eye is concave. And number 10, gases are solids.
What an idiot.
What's
Have
the
I
one?
got dishonourable mentions?
Yes, dishonourable. I can only just make it out. Yes, go ahead if you can read them too. I can't, because I can't.
Gases are running around in all directions, but they're going down. The ball has velocity upwards and an acceleration downwards.
Wow.
Nathan Oakley, Well, why isn't gas going down, go boom, boom to be weighed on the scale then? The rumpus. Because
balls.
Because balls.
Exactly. And this Dunning-Kruger boson needs to be horse and elephant tranquilized without cessation before his emergency lobotomy. Oh, that's QE stated.
I get it. So the purpose of this was to say, okay, if he wants to come here and bash Adam over some misspeak, then, the list is endless for him. But ultimately speaking, the only purpose was to take it off topic, turn it into a personal attack about Adam and his credibility based on the statements that he's making, then ignore all association with those particular statements, in this case PV equals nRT, in relation to sphere Earth. And when tied down to how it applies to sphere Earth, made clear, it doesn't. This natural law doesn't even apply. And we've got him on record. The second law of thermodynamics, that would be natural law, laws of nature, don't apply to Earth. Well, how is that loosely translated? Doesn't apply to your fundy sphere Earth belief in spinning spheres in sky vacuums. God, that was a tongue twister.
I just want to say for the audience that Rumpus has actually pulled a little trick here. And I hate to say this, Nathan, but you were incorrect in something you said there. Adam didn't misspeak. Rumpus has given the impression he did. He didn't. Adam said temperature will change the speed of the movement of the molecules of gas, and that's what it does. So Rumpus has given the impression that Adam did something wrong because of the way he went about it, because that's what he wanted to do. But he didn't. Adam didn't misspeak. Anyone can listen back. Adam didn't make any claims, positive claims in any direction that he could be held accountable for.
I don't think I said you'd use PV equals nRT to calculate the speed, because you wouldn't. But if they came over like that, then in any adult conversation, you go, oh, sorry, that's not what I meant. You'd obviously use this one, which is kind of what we did, but he's desperate, isn't he, to have
but Adam, our side has the humility to admit a misspeak. Their side never does.
The unfortunate thing for Rumpus is I have both the humility but also the knowledge to say what was the correct thing as well. So,
correct. If it was a misspeak,
that's why I said during the show, why don't you just play all his clips? So I'm glad QE came in with that. Thank you, Quantum Eraser.
Well, moreover, it's better to qualify the fact that what's being quibbled over is a formula that destroys the assertion we are on a sphere with a sky vacuum above our head. Because the space is the V in that formula. And the space is the space a gas could fill. Well, their space is a space. Now, when we get to ask him, well, let's calculate it with V. Number one, lots of obfuscation techniques, but when it comes to him being absolutely pinned down, with the audience knowing damn well he's heard the question, he has to say, this doesn't apply. Well, you just have to translate it if you've got half a brain. It means I can't apply natural law to my sphere Earth belief with its sphere-shaped air laws. This natural law that's definitely going to be applicable in nature isn't applicable to a sphere Earth.
Hey, Nathan, I think I caught it right. He first went off because he knew what was happening when you were holding him to the V. He kept calling it velocity, and you kept on him. Is that what it stands for? And finally, with a very soft whispering mode, he said volume. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah. To respond, volume of what? The volume that the gas has capable of filling? Well, that's your space. The amount of space, the amount of volume, and irony of irony, they call space space. It's a space for gas to fill, and fill it must. It's called entropy.
Yeah, but how do you deal with a guy who says he's never wrong, and Adam just read all of that stuff he said, but he thinks he's never wrong? How do you deal with a person like that?
You don't. He's here to cause a disruption. But in order to be successful in that, he has to be quite knowledgeable, which means we can have him over a barrel. If we approach with kit gloves and take control of the situation, well, all he can do from now on is bleat. Do you think after 4 years I'd give a crap about how he thinks he's in control of my show? He isn't. Now, the reasonable people who come here, they normally, even if they're interrupting their opponent, they still get a fair crack of the whip. Now, Rumpus won't ever tolerate having anything to respond to put to him. He just won't tolerate it. Soon as it happens, he shuts down all conversations, talks through everything, moans that he's not hearing it because he's been talked through. Just absurd. Well, that's all he's here to achieve, a disruption. Doesn't mean he's not useful. Doesn't mean we can't have him over a barrel. Doesn't mean we can't get him to admit the reality of the situation. This natural law doesn't apply to Sphere Earth.
Yeah, Nathan, stop interrupting his interruption of your middle of the sentence.
Exactly. And if you do, well then understand that I'm going to moan that I didn't get to hear as I interrupted your point. Yeah, absurd. But that's what he does. That's what he's here to do. It's his only objective, cause disruption. Because then the flow of information being disseminated to the audience is disrupted. That's his name. Disruption. Rumpus. That's what it means.
So we got to let him stop doing it then.
On corrections, I was wrong about the clouds. When I disappeared, they are less dense.
Well, there we go. Until they're not, and then they fall back down.
Psychs himself up.
Are you all right, Brian?
So can I add something to this conversation?
The goalie, go ahead.
So Rumpus says that gases are made up of solid atoms or molecules. I don't think that's true either. Atoms aren't solids. That kind of debunks his whole bouncy balls bullshit too.
Let's clear this up.
Can we discuss that?
Sure, yes, we can. Adam, what's an atom?
I'm back. Sorry, I was just on the phone there.
The solidity of an atom would be the state it would be in.
Solidity
now, as a
what now?
separate atom,
What the solidity?
it's going to be subjected to that state, whether it be solid, gas, or liquid. But in itself, as a separated entity, it doesn't really... Yeah, it doesn't have one exclusive position. It's not suddenly a solid when you zoom in on it far enough.
But it's the behavior of that.
This is important.
That's important.
What's an atom?
Stick with looking at gases in their relative conditions. Don't then go off to deal with a single gold atom or something. Deal with just gases, because we're not in a lot of cases of gases anyway. We're dealing with molecules, aren't we? So. Atoms in of themselves. Just yeah.
What's a molecule? Okay. What's a molecule?
Yeah, they are single, independent. In the gaseous state, yeah, they're free to move independently, individually. They have their own path, completely with no relevance other than its previous collision to one of the molecule. They determine their next path, the last collision, but that's the only relevance they have to each other.
I agree. Don't take this the wrong way. What's an atom?
An atom is a. I'm just trying. Well, it's a single unit.
Atom.
Simply for me, I'm not sure where.
I'm trying to lead you. We're having an equivocation used, or a false analogy. False equivalence.
I've missed that bit. That's when my phone went. Sorry.
We've got a false equivalence, haven't we? Gas is like bonded bouncy balls, right? And then the description we get from the opponent is at the atomic level, although it's not phrased as concisely as that. So, what's an atom? Why is it being used in this example?
Well, the reason it's being used is an atom is often described as a solid spherical unit in terms of atomic theory. So and particularly when you're talking gas collision, it's considered like that. But that would be the only kind of an analogousness. But an atom is a single unit, whereas a bouncy ball is comprised of many atoms, and its relative behavior is not analogous to.
This is described as a new one on me as a fallacy of composition, assuming that what is true of part is true of the whole, or vice versa. That's called correct me if I'm wrong, QE. That's a fallacy of composition.
I think that's what I'm saying. Is that the behavior of the atom is not analogous to the behavior of the bouncy ball on collision.
Well, I can make it very simple for the audience.
Don't behave separately, basically.
Sorry, I was on mute. The new thing with the natural laws, Ruppus said The fact that you don't appreciate the difference between natural law, which is an all-encompassing term, which is only used by lawyers. He thinks natural law is used by lawyers.
That's preposterous. All lawyers are unnatural.
Well, lawyers do reference natural law in the context of God-given, but we're talking physics here, Rumpus.
I'm pretty sure lawyers are man-made.
I make it very simple for the audience. You can walk through a gas, any gas, but you can't walk through a solid. That is the difference between those two. So how can one be a solid and termed as a solid and the other be termed as a gas?
Have you seen the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats?
Sorry, Nathan?
Have you seen the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats?
No.
Okay.
Is he? Oh, sorry to interrupt. I think I got the point you're making. Is he saying that an atom is solid, therefore gases, which are atoms, are solids? Is he trying to make? See,
Right.
it comes back to what we was talking with Issa about the
But a
definition
single-
of words being important, particularly in when you're talking in very specific terms, such as this. And in this case, then the word solid relates to a phase, not the substance's rigidity.
Exactly.
So it's a mismatch and a lack of.
Yeah, ask him what the phases of matter are.
Yeah, so it's the
exactly. Adam's right on point.
Yeah. As opposed to, and you're then trying to draw an analogy between that phase of matter, which is intrinsically caused by a crystalline structure formation, to the solidity of an atom, which in of itself is theoretical.
I want to add something,
Right.
Stagoli. Hold on,
Atoms
Arwin.
as
Hold on,
balls
just
are
one sec,
only
Arwin. Hold on. Did you want to add something, Stagoli?
Right. I was gonna say because as one atom is mostly empty space, isn't it? Isn't it just like a
Exactly.
proton and
He's guilty of
So how
composition
could it be
fallacy also.
solid? It's not solid then.
He's guilty of a composition fallacy. And you are correct, inferring that something is true of the whole from the fact that it's true of some of the part of the whole. So that's a composition fallacy. That's after he changed the argument, because he said gases are solids, and Adam just hammered the crap out of it. It's so stupid. It's so juvenile. I don't know what to say about it. He should be institutionalized right now. That's it.
That's why it took me so long. It's like when I was talking to my kids at 6 and 7. It's that kind of category error that he's making, or purposely misrepresented. So it's hard to pick up there. Do you know what I mean? Because it is such a fundamental, basic misunderstanding that he's presenting as his argument.
I think Rumpus should write a book about his version of reality and put it all to paper so that, it's published, Rumpus. Yeah, that's your idea right there in your book. You know?
It's already been done. It's called the heliocentric
NASA's
model.
already done it
Solar
for him.
system.
It would be fun if there was a book just with that specific form of nonsense out there.
So Nathan said. So Nathan said something about. Was that a movie? What was the title? Men Who Stare at Goats.
Right.
Yeah. So does that explain Rumpus's bleeding?
No, it's just a film about people who think they can walk through walls.
You missed the pun. Bleating.
Oh, bleating. I did. I missed the pun. Sorry. I thought there was a serious question attached.
No, siree. No, siree. Come off mute and share your pain, numpty.
No, siree.
Yeah, he's talking a lot of trash in the chat. Come off mute, coward.
In here.
Can I say something about the atom?
No, we want no siree.
Yeah, let's get him out. Come on out. Come out, wherever you are.
Let's go, Nose. There he is. He's off mute. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, how do lunar eclipses work?
How'd the lunar eclipses work? How does spontaneous parametric down conversion work on your sphere Earth?
I've just got to reset Discord, my friend. Just wait 1 second. Who is it directed to? Has somebody on the panel made a claim about how eclipses work, my friend?
No.
I did. Yay.
Okay, if Alwyn's made a claim about how eclipses work.
No, he hasn't. He's just fucking shut the hell up.
Oh, really? I can't make a claim?
Yeah, really. We're not going off on one of your fucking tangents. You didn't make a claim about lunar eclipses, did you?
Okay, thank you, both of you, Arwin and
really?
QE. Before you fall out, just let me ask the guy: was it directed at somebody specific? Has somebody made a claim about how they work that you wanted to challenge?
No, it's an open question for everyone.
I mean, I've got to be honest. It's a good question then, because I would like to know also.
Me three.
Yep.
Yeah, so go ahead. I mean, hold on.
I've got an answer.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, I can throw it open to anybody. Anybody feel the need to claim how eclipses work? Maybe you. I mean, I hate to throw it straight back at
I'm
you.
not allowed to.
Not you, Arwin. Noise. How do you say your name?
I mean,
how'd you say your name?
My
Noise.
claim would. I really don't mind. Have fun. But anyway, my claim for lunar eclipses would be the heliocentric model.
Models don't cause things.
Really?
That's absurd. Models
go ahead,
don't cause
Nathan.
things.
My claim would be that the Earth blocks the sunlight from hitting the moon.
What about the Saturnalia eclipse?
Hold on. And what evidence do you have that Earth is a sphere in a vacuum in orbital motion? What evidence do you have to back that claim?
That wasn't the question. The question was, how do you explain lunar eclipses in the flat Earth model?
Okay, and we said we don't know. I didn't claim a model. You added that supplementary little bit about a flat Earth model. We said we're all in the same boat. Then we don't know. We'd love to, and then you launched into claiming how it worked, and your claim was orbital motion, shadows, sphere Earth. Now, based on your claim of orbital motion causing shadows, I asked, what do you have to back that claim? Do you have anything to back that claim? If not, it's a baseless assertion, also known as religious fundamentalism. But do you have anything to back this baseless assertion?
Well, it's just what I think. I'm not stating it as fact. This is my opinion on how lunar eclipses work.
Yeah,
you can do your own research. I'll do mine.
We know it's your opinion. We're asking if you have anything to back it, though. If the answer's no, that's fine.
No, I do not.
Okay,
No.
so it's just a belief then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for offering your beliefs about the sun. That's not very useful to us. We're more interested in how it actually works in reality, as opposed to your beliefs. But thank you.
Have fun finding that out.
Finding what out?
Cool.
How it works.
Yeah, we'd like to know too. Unfortunately, the heliocentric model has an assumption of a sphere Earth for a start. That's utilising a horizon that's physical to draw tangent points, and we've debunked that, leaving you without a sphere Earth. The orbital motion is also merely assumed in the model.
Okay, have fun proving it with the assumption of a flat Earth.
I don't make that assumption in terms of any model, though. I don't know how the sun works. I told you that's the third time. Repeat after me. I do not, Nathan doesn't make any claims about how the sun works. Straw man, my friend.
Okay, so that's the answer to the question.
I do.
The question's over.
Say again. Can you repeat yourself, please?
So that's your answer. My question's done.
Do you think that we're a flat pancake in the solar system?
What's going on here is it's a fallacy. I don't know what the name of the fallacy is. Maybe QE will correct me. It's a fallacy where because we don't have an explanation, that means that the other explanation is correct. But there could be 1,000 explanations, but explanations are not proof. So
No,
just because we don't
correlation based.
No, it's not. It's not correlation based either. It's just a simple baseless assertion fallacy. That's it.
Right. As admitted by him, it's just his belief. Oh, that's nice.
Are you going to start a belief forum, Nathan?
No, this isn't a belief forum. Very much educational platform, interested in physics. Beliefs? I don't know why you've come here. Do you think you're on some pedestal with your religious belief in how the sun works and how Earth's falling around it by presupposition? I don't get it. Why ask us this question? What use was it?
How can that be?
I asked to hear your views, not to say my own.
You did give us your own. You gave us your belief. You very much stated your belief, my friend. Have you forgotten what happened 2 minutes ago?
Because yes, I stated my belief because you asked. But I asked first, and you stated yours. I don't see the issue.
Okay, I'll tell you. The issue is that 90%, or I've just made that percentage up, a huge percentage of the Western world are under the same misapprehension by way of a belief as you are. Most people believe, with a religious fundamentalist viewpoint that they may or may not be aware of, the Earth, by presupposition, as a sphere, is falling around the sun. Yep. There's no evidence to suggest that. Nothing validating it, nothing empirical about it. It's a model, as you declared. Now, you've come and asked us for our equivalent model, and I've said we don't make any claims with models. They don't prove things. That was the first thing I said to you. But you've gone on to ask us why we haven't offered up a false dichotomy, Brian, so that you can burn our false dichotomy and say your religious belief is better. But it's just a belief you hold. So the point is that what you've offered, most people believe, and is merely a belief, like you've admitted. So most people just believe we're falling around the sun. There's nothing to back it. Have you learnt anything? Maybe that you've got a belief you're holding on to?
Yes. I have no problem with it being a belief. I still can't see. So I know it's a belief. You know it's a belief. We can agree to disagree.
Okay. Is it reasonable?
There is no problem.
Okay, well, let's change the subject then. Is it reasonable that things that are definitely beliefs are taught as facts to children? Is that reasonable, would you say? Just asking your opinion. Hello?
He just left.
Oh, he ran away.
That shut him up quick.
Fair enough. I think sometimes people realise they're in far deeper than they expected and then just make their excuses and leave. That was one of those times. I think, in all fairness, I should really take my hat off to the guy, because I wouldn't want to face me either.
Excellent back and forth.
He might rejoin. He could have had internet issues. He might rejoin. It could be just we don't know yet. Just saying. But I don't think he is. He obviously doesn't have anything to back his belief, and he has admitted it's a belief. So there's not really debate. There's nothing to debate on. If you know what I mean, is there really?
And I think some teachers are more honest than others about the fact that this is all just a theory.
Colloquial theory.
But it's not a scientific. No. Not a theory. He never said theory. Even if he did, it's not a scientific theory. So no on all counts there.
Well, if we're going to bring up teachers, I'll go back to my teacher who said, I don't even believe it, but I have to teach it.
But Kiwi, can it not be described as a colloquial theory? Or is that still not correct?
But colloquial theory is speculation.
Yeah, like colloquially, Boyle's law is don't eat greasy food.
Right. So it could be classified an idea or a philosophy. That would be perfectly correct. Or a concept.
No, it's a speculation, is what it is. Naked speculation. That's it. No ideas, no opinions, a speculatory belief. That's it.
Yeah, but if you insert it in the school system,
Or a cool story.
when you insert it into when you insert it into the school system, and the only way to get a passing grade is to answer the way their belief tells you to answer. By the time you're a young man or an adult, you own it, like this guy, and then he has to say, "No, I can't prove what I'm saying. It's a belief." All right, well, thanks. We knew that all along.
I suspect that guy was somewhere along his journey and is coming to terms with this. You know, although he's still obviously on the ball, you know, the fact that he could so quickly admit that it was a belief surprised me and made me think, oh, maybe this guy's a bit further down the line than I expected.
Would he have admitted it's a belief though to someone else, Nathan? Sorry, I was just saying, would he have admitted that it's a belief to someone else? Would he have admitted it's a belief to someone who was a new flat earther? Or would he try to argue the point? He admitted it to you on this show because he knew he was wasting his time trying to argue.
Now he's in chat. He's in chat, but not in the voice. Just so you know.
I've never had the chat up ever in the entire time I've run the show. It's too distracting.
Yep.
And if I'm asked, I say I can't access it. I literally I close the window down to the point where I cannot access it, and I'll say so. When people say it's just in the live chat, I'm like, I don't care. Someone else will have to present it.
I think for the Globe side, where they really need to start with this is first off prove that it's a shadow on something. We don't know what the moon is. They instantly think they do, and they instantly think it's a shadow. Prove it's a shadow that's on something. That's
right.
Yeah, to prove.
It's a light-based phenomenon. There's nothing physical about it.
Yeah, well, requires we don't know. We don't know anything about it. Like the point I'm making to them. Sorry, just let me finish this then. The point I'm making to them is they have to prove that it's a shadow on something the shadow could go onto. That's two things they have to prove before they can even start speculating about what is causing the shadow. Sorry,
Correct. Correct. And they need to get their shadow in the right place too.
He answered your question, Nathan. He answered your question in chat. Your question is it did you say is it fair or good that they teach facts or the belief as facts to children? He said, sure, why not? They are free to question them.
Is it reasonable that beliefs are taught as facts to children, is what Nathan said.
Yep. And he said, sure, why not? They are free to question them.
Oh, yeah. When they're learning the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, they're going to question that. Okay.
But how are they supposed to question it if they're told they're facts?
I don't know. He might have a point. I mean, I must admit, when I was being taught the 1, 2, 3s, what went through my mind was, surely we should be using hexadecimal.
Yeah.
It's funny. I actually did that, but thanks to my brother was talking about it all the time.
Just want to justify just 1 second. I know I'm normally the one moaning about talking admin, but just for the audience's benefit, this is my screen that you can now see on screen, just to get an idea of how overpopulated it is. There is absolutely no room for me to put anything up. So when I say I'm going to close down certain things just so they're not distracting to me, that's why. The other thing I'm going to show you is the other screen, because I've got two screens. If I can find the damn tab to actually do it, that'll do me and webcam. So that's the other screen. And again, it's absolutely jammed with loads and loads of different stuff. So that's the different screens that I use. I just wanted to show the audience so they can get an idea of how complicated it is to actually run the show. When they're like, well, why wouldn't you have the chat open? Well, because number one, I haven't got enough real estate. Literally, I can't physically fit it on. But there we go. I just wanted to show that. And you're all deeply concerned about it, I can see.
To say that the kids can question it is a pretty poor answer, though, because in the end of the day, why are they being taught it as well? You don't know, just say we don't know. If kids ask the teacher, what is the moon? How does that happen? If the teacher doesn't know, then they don't know.
Yeah, but that was my whole point. If you question it, you fail the exam.
Exactly.
So you can't question it because you would fail the exam.
But
Well,
it
you
all
can, but
depends
you
on
will
what the
pay.
question is, though. Is it a question about physical reality, or is it a question about the heliocentric model?
Hold
You
on.
see?
He replied with a question from what QE quoted verbatim. He had a question in there of his own. Why not? Was his question, correct?
I think so, yeah.
Right, why not lie?
Well, why is
I
it
got a
not
question.
reasonable? My question, he's throwing it back to me. Clever. Fine. Why is it not reasonable to teach fundamentalist religious beliefs as facts to children? Well, because it's wrong to lie to children about their reality. That's wrong.
Is that the conversation I missed today? Shit.
What's your two pennyworth chocolate?
Well, what was the guy's response to that? Like, it is okay to teach kids opinions and beliefs as facts?
Sure, why not?
Was that
Was
the
his
guy's
answer.
opinion?
Sure, why not? That was his answer with a supplementary question.
Wow.
Or a
Well,
statement
what he
that
said is they're free to question it.
Yeah, they're free to question it. And you go back to history and you could see how regimes and totalitarian governments took a, how can I put it, advantage of children and raised them up in false beliefs.
People were
It's
free
all
to
about what
question
happens
communism
when
too.
the student does question it. How do they respond to that questioning?
well, both 10th Man and I have got examples of this. I remember in a religious education class questioning it based on the basis of what I'd been taught in a previous class about dinosaurs, and I was kicked out. I was questioning the timeline, and I was kicked out of the class.
Yeah, you made no
I got a
bones
question,
about it
guys.
either.
Go ahead. You got a couple of minutes?
No, it's ludicrous for this person to, I mean, first of all, I lose all respect for a person who can't think. It's obvious. You can't tell children this is it, and if you don't answer it this way, you fail the test. And at the same time, say, well, they're free to question it. No, they're not. That's the whole
Exactly.
point. It's
Yeah,
indoctrination.
that's cognitive
Yeah,
dissonance. That's what I was getting at. But there's somebody from the Discord that wanted to ask something. Feel free. We've got a couple of minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to ask a question. Okay, so quote unquote, the Lunar rover on Mars. Why do I see when they have this little 360 thing you can do? Why do I see stars through mountains? How is there stars? I thought they were huge. How they
So,
look
so your
tiny.
question is
They don't make
in
no sense.
regards to the footage presented on television that is claimed to be a subsequent video feed after a journey through a second law of thermodynamics violation. You want to know why there's an anomaly in the video feed from a second law of thermodynamics violation claimed to be rock in the sky we see as a light called Mars. Is that your question?
No, that's not my question. I already know this is. I already know it's a violation. I'm just being funny because that's don't make no sense. You shouldn't be seeing stars through mountains.
Because it's not real. It's fake. It's faked. There is no rock in a sky vacuum called Mars. There's just a light in the sky, which they claim is a rock in a sky vacuum violation of natural law, which they then claim to have travelled to through an astronomical distance derived from an R value that's been debunked that can't possibly be real to give you this footage.
Right.
So before we even get to the footage, it's long since fake.
Yeah, I agree. I understand that, but look at this, man. They're not even trying anymore.
Yeah, that's a different point. How bad the fakery is of recent years is of note. They are. It's almost intentional. It seems like it's intentionally bad, considering in years gone by, NASA have been on the absolute cutting edge of cinematography. Now, it's poor. It's very poor.
Yeah, intentionally poor, I would say.
Maybe.
Look, resolutions and imagination simply caught up in the last 50 years.
I don't know. They're still on the cutting edge. They could do better, I think, considering that it should never be the case that what you see being played down, they play their cards very close to the chest, or they used to when they were showing you people doing twirly twirls in a sky vacuum in some capsule, right? Well, they didn't show too much, and it was always much, much better than you ever got at the cinema from anything that was claimed to be, the same. And NASA were always ahead of it. And like I say, because they played their cards close to their chest, check out Dilly Gill for where I'm getting these references from. they were always ahead of the game and pulling off the magic trick much better than you could be convinced at the cinema. Your suspension of disbelief wasn't even employed when you watch NASA stuff. Now, you're like, even if you're a normie, you go, wow, well, that's a big old glitch right there. Oh, he's dropped his keys. I thought they were in 0G. Things like that. You're just like, well, are they even trying? Well, yeah, they must be trying, but they're almost intentionally, or seems that way, as 10th Man's alluding, and I'm slightly alluding. Seems like it's almost intentionally done badly now. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
That's why I had to
I
just
would.
throw it in there, man, because I thought
Sorry,
it's
go on.
hilarious. I mean, it is horrible if you see that little 3D image.
I
Oh,
don't know.
well,
I
the
took
tape.
a look this morning at the Mars landing, supposedly, and I really thought it didn't look that bad. Although I did notice like a scale issue when like the dust started to blow in all directions. I just noticed like, wait, this is the scale model. That dust is not blowing in the proper volumetric proportions. But the rest of it looked really pretty good.
Well, sorry, when I thought you were finished. What people have to realize is NASA have options. So I agree mostly with what Tenth Man and Nathan are saying. They're not. Is like, why are they not trying so hard? But push up to come to shove, they can always say, okay, that's not the correct real footage. And they can say, this is the correct real footage, but it's really, really bad, and show you a big bounty heap of nonsense and say that was the best they could do. It's on Mars, it's far away. What do you want?
I mean,
And they can always say that if they want.
Don G is representing the voice of the people in this regard. I mean, I even had a comment from one of my Patreons. I'm going to read it out. It's from Lost Cat FE. It says, how about you guys keep calling out and debunking all the smaller guys, like the guys on the NASA channel talking about the Mars flight, and make some shorter vids and corner them like Simon Scam. So I think diluting down what he's, or trying to dissect what he's saying there's a load of people who are sat watching these videos when they've got their live streams or videos from YouTube that you've got a chat stream in, all in there praising each other about how wonderful NASA are, and then making videos about these trips through sky vacuums. And the suggestion that I'm getting from this particular Patreon is to say, why don't you call them out? It's absurd. You know, they're claiming stuff's happening in sky vacuums, you know. Just call them out on it. And it's like, hey, yeah, it's obviously that's what the people want, and Don Gio's echoing that, right?
Yeah, that's what they want.
People want it talked about, and in years gone by, I've said, look, there's no need. Why talk about the fakery? Well, now there might be a reason, because it's like, even when it's described as obviously fake, and all of the people we're talking to, or all the people I talk to when I present them some of the modern footage, they challenge me to prove it isn't fake. In other words, they automatically know instinctually it's fake. It's like, that's a weird scenario. What's going on? That's worthy of talking about suddenly. Because we're not talking about it like, does this prove space? Here's some images from space. Let's talk about how fake they are and pull apart the CGI fakery. It's like, we don't need to do that anymore. It's obviously taking place in the realm that doesn't exist. But by the same token, why are they doing such a poor job of it all of a sudden?
If you've been outside the container.
Hold on, I have a real theory about this. Maybe it has to do with psychological immunization, where they basically cause a cognitive dissonance reaction within the willing recipient of the glow believer in order to make them, on an intuitive level, create the rest of the suspense of disbelief. So to kind of preemptively make them double down on the belief, instead of just letting them naturally arrive to that point, right? So that they'll expect fakery and defend themselves psychologically against it while still believing it's all real.
The standalone show on Flat Earth anywhere is Flat Earth Debates here. And here's why. Because we deal with the physics. There's so many Flat Earth channels that deal with NASA footage fakery. Let them deal with it. I come here because of the way Nathan runs the show, and that is the physics, the nature of our reality. And that's what makes us different, and I love it.
Anyway,
so you don't think I'm correct with my theory?
I do think you're correct, Darwin, but I'm more keen to hear the tacit acceptance of the containment we require for gas pressure in the form of a question from Ed. So do you want to repeat yourself, Ed?
Yeah, which one of you has been outside the container?
So, I love to hear the tacit acceptance from the globe side that we must have containment.
Right, so none of you.
We're all
Mr.
born
Ed
in
is
the
back.
container, but we all die in the container, Ed.
Yeah,
Nobody goes out of the container.
Welcome to
Except
contained.
spirit.
Welcome to fake space, though. Glad
How do
got
you
here
know
at
it's
the end.
fake if you've never been outside the container?
But you understand we need a container, right?
How do you know space is fake if you've never
Because
been
we need a
outside the
container to have gas pressure.
Yeah, you're not answering. You're dodging.
I'll repeat it. Because, as declared by you with your tacit acceptance and question of us whether or not we've achieved exit from the container, well, if there's a container, then you're not travelling out to a sky vacuum. Yeah? Then there's something over us containing us. Well, it's asserted that Earth in a sky vacuum is an open system without containment. But your question implies your tacit acceptance of the containment we must require to have gas pressure here. So, like us, you understand, but therefore feel that we're the arbiters of what's beyond the containment we must have to be breathing? No, we don't know that, but it's nice that you now understand, as we do, that we must have containment, debunking space, because the sky is not a vacuum.
So you don't know space is fake.
Yeah, we do. If the sky was a vacuum, there'd be no containment. Yeah, just covered this. And the gas we breathe would fill the space. It would be the availability of volume. Your sky is a vast space for gas to fill, and gas would just fill it. If it was 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum, then the gas we're breathing would be filling it. But like you already have a tacit acceptance, no, for us to be breathing, there must be containment. That's right. So not sky vacuum, containment.
The globe model
How do you know?
volume that QE read out earlier, that would kind of make your model impossible.
Yeah. Space
Right,
would be a
so
space.
how do you know there's not a vacuum behind the container, though?
So you accept, we're back onto your tacit acceptance of the containment that is required for us to be breathing then. So space fake.
That's not what I asked.
Moving on. So when we get to the point where he's asking about the necessary antecedent consequent relationship involved for us to be breathing, that's containment for gas pressure. He asks us, have any of us been beyond the container? And it's like, yeah, the moment you ask that question, you are invalidating space, though. You appreciate that your acceptance of natural law, reality that is, debunks space. Can't be a vacuum because gas would fill it.
How do you know that you haven't been outside the container?
Because I'm breathing. So I don't need to go outside the containment that we must have to be breathing. I just need to breathe to know that there's not a vacuum above my head. Debunking the idea, the notion, the model. Even earlier, were you not listening when Rumpus told us that natural law doesn't apply to your model and atmosphere? That this isn't applicable with natural law, or it doesn't jive? Yeah, your sky vacuum, when it comes to natural law, it's not even applicable, mate. Not even close to being applied with natural law. Your atmosphere, your sphere-shaped air in a vacuum without containment. You can't even apply natural law to that.
How do you know that behind the container there's not a vacuum?
I don't know anything beyond the container. I just know that we must be contained to be breathing. And it's nice that you also believe that now? Or what? Accept it without relinquishing your fundy sky vacuum belief? That your question demolishes? Yeah, your question demolishes your belief in a sky vacuum, Ed.
Doesn't? Because you...
Oh, doesn't it? Yeah, containment. Yeah, we'd need that as a way of having the air that we're breathing. Yeah, we'd need that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like you're asking about. Yeah, you're asking if we've been beyond the containment we require. Yeah, well, the containment that we require for your question to make sense debunks space. Because it's not a sky vacuum. Gas would fill it.
If you didn't go behind the container, you can't verify space is fake.
So, okay, let me get it straight. So you think there's a container, so your tacit acceptance of containment then has a space beyond the physical barrier that's obviously got to be keeping us with the pressure that we breathe. So how did men go to the moon then in your fundamentalist contradiction where we have containment but also adhere to a sphere Earth belief without containment? How do you square that circle of travelling out through something that is ultimately stopping things travelling out from it?
The point is you're making a claim and you didn't verify it.
Sorry, the point is that space is fake, and that if we were contained, it wouldn't be a sky vacuum for rockets to travel through. So your question about having containment and what's beyond it, well, what did the Mars mission break the containment? Did they smash through this containment you have an acceptance of now? No, they didn't, right? They're just faking it, because they're not travelling through a sky vacuum that has no containment, as is actually asserted in heliocentrism.
How do you know that you haven't verified what's behind the container?
What
I
if
just know
there's
that
a
we must be
container for the
contained, and
solar
contained
system
would mean
and Mars
rockets
is
can't
within
get
it?
out.
How do you know they can't get out somewhere else? You haven't verified it.
Oh, is there a hatch? So you've added a contained field, right? Like a dome around the sphere Earth. And now what? They've got a special hatch they go through.
Valve system.
Well, you haven't even verified the container.
Like a
so-
force field.
I have verified the
Sad
container.
when somebody thinks there's a helicopter
guys.
on Mars.
Sorry. Hello, can I respond to him without constant interruption? Yeah, I have verified that we are in containment. I'm breathing.
Oh, really? Show it.
There you go.
Dick.
So you can't verify the container.
Yeah, I just did.
Had somebody with that.
I just did. You ignored me and said I couldn't show it, and then I inhaled the air that we are breathing. Now, if the sky was a vacuum, we'd never achieve any air pressure at all, because the gas would fill the space.
Really? I thought you had a container.
Yeah, the one that you now accept in violation of the idea of a sky vacuum, then.
Irrelevant.
All right. Cognitive pain much? Yeah, you're in a position where you want to hold on to your sphere belief, but understand by way of natural law that we must have containment, even though you asserting and asking us about containment flies in the face of your sphere Earth belief. That's Earth without containment, mate. Why are you asking us about containment unless you accept that the sky isn't fake? Tell me it's irrelevant again, given that your model is on screen and there's no containment around it, yet you're asking us about how the containment works. So you understand that there must be containment. Yeah, you've just debunked space.
No, because you didn't verify what's behind the container.
Right.
The container that's not in your model?
Yeah, what container? Is there a container in your model?
Who cares what's behind it? I
No,
just
there
want to
is
know
one in
if
you.
it's there or not.
Yeah, there is no container in a sphere Earth model. So, like us, Ed understands that we must have containment, and there isn't any in a sphere Earth model. Well, that's the big problem for the sphere Earth model. That's it.
It's funny because you're
Right, so
spending
you
a lot of
didn't
time
verify
asking us.
anything, it's just a claim.
Say again, Ed.
So it's just a claim about space. You didn't verify that it's fake. Got it.
What the hell? What space? What
Right,
space?
I have to verify
What are you
that
talking
it's
about?
not real, do I?
You're making a claim about it, so yeah.
Am I? I'm claiming space, am I?
Do I have to prove Narnia's fake?
No, you're
too?
claiming
Hold on, let
space.
Ed do his,
So,
do his little trick,
how
his
did you
attempt to
verify that
reverse
it's
the burden of proof and tell me that maybe I'm claiming space. It's a claim I'm making, is it?
No, you're claiming it's fake. How did you?
Oh, so I'm responding to a claim that it's real then, not making it my claim, making my response a rebuttal. So my rebuttal is that no, if there was a massive space for gas to fill, gas would fill it. It expands in all directions. So your claim that the sky is a vacuum, and then upon tacit acceptance that we must have containment, you think you've still got a sky vacuum beyond the containment we require that isn't a part of your heliocentric model, right?
You haven't verified that it isn't. So
So that makes it a claim that I'm making that it is then, does it? No, this is a mere burden of proof attempt to reverse the burden. That's all you're doing. It's pathetic.
oh, I got it. Discord is muted.
It is pathetic, man. Like that's really what you got. How do we know there's not space beyond the container? What the hell? This is
You're
your attack
making a
plan.
claim about it, so where's your evidence?
How do we have gas pressure? How do we have any gas pressure without one?
Back
Because
in
you don't
time,
have
he said
a
I'm making a
container
claim and not giving evidence.
your-
So let's give
Okay.
him again. I've got
Right.
gas pressure to breathe.
Who was
And maybe he's
talking
going to
just
mute
now?
me. We heard you claiming I was muting you, yeah? Because you weren't being muted. You were talking through us.
Yeah, who was
And
just
now you're
talking to
muting
me
me.
before?
So projection much. You don't have to mute me, Ed.
Uh-huh.
It's okay, Ed. You don't have to mute me. Thanks.
Who was talking
Thanks.
before you?
I'm going to give you that
Someone
evidence that
told,
you're
so
not allowing
you have
to
to
reach
respond.
the audience. Yeah, you little rumpus junior.
Yeah.
That's right.
Someone just said
Yeah,
so.
eventually I'm going to have to shut him up, aren't I? Because he won't allow me to give the evidence he said I didn't, even though I've given it twice. Yeah, when I inhale, I am experiencing the gas pressure that we all experience. That is my proof. Because without the containment that we must have, there wouldn't be any gas pressure. It would fill the availability of volume it had to fill. And your claim is that it's space. That would be the space the gas could fill, and it would fill it in line with entropy law.
All right, I got a question, Nathan.
Go ahead.
All right, so I have this debate with people about gas pressures and how it rises. So if I allow helium or nitrogen to rise, right, they will claim it's buoyancy, that the speed is canceling out gravity. So is buoyancy gravity now?
Yes, buoyancy invokes gravity. That's correct. When they say buoyancy, they're invoking a downward vector 9.8 meters per second squared to pull things around the balloon in your example to push it up. So it's something being pulled down to push something up. Well, that implies that the gas around the balloon is going down, go boom, boom, right? So does gas go down, go boom, boom to force the balloon up? Is it the downward vector forcing it up? No, gas does not go down, go boom, boom.
I just want to say that actually since 1915, the mainstream science is not claiming that, because Albert Einstein stated that gravity wasn't a force in 1915, and it was accepted by mainstream pseudoscience. So anyone who's claiming that buoyancy is due to a force of gravity, even though there's calculations built upon it, are incorrect, even within their own model.
Perfect. That's going to be my way to round out this show. So with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, there is a link to get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!